Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Stacy Sloan with Keller Williams Elite Realty, proudly serving the Durham and Triangle area for 25 years. Call Stacy at 919-972-1180. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Rachel Z with Rachel Z Real Estate Team Realty. From the Triangle to the Triad, call Rachel Z at 919-323-6068. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Orange Hammer Podcast. Today, my guest, Sheryl Vazquez, in the house. Sheryl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Let's see if we can just move that a little bit. There we go. Cool. Okay. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate the reschedule. COVID took me down, but We're back. I'm back.
Yes.
Woo! Awesome. We were just having quite a lengthy COVID chat. It seems to doesn't care who you are. It's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still around.
It's very much around.
Need to understand that.
Yeah.
6. I'm still good with 6 feet.
Yeah, I was kind
especially in the grocery store.
I was good with 6 feet before that. Yeah. I was fine with stay out of my personal bubble.
Totally.
Yeah, I was good with that. I don't want to put masks back on.
I don't think anybody does.
Also, I just don't know like how much they're really doing. Like, let me be clear, I'm not one of these like conspiracy theorist person, right. Blah, 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 the government this, the government that. But like, short of surgically needing one for your surgeon, like, I'm not 100% sure if like breathing into that thing for 12 hours a day is the move or really stop. I mean, I know the like bandana fake ones are doing nothing.
At all.
They're not doing, like, you look cool as a train robber, but it's not doing a goddamn thing. Like, right. There's no way.
I think a lot of them, especially like you're saying, the pretty ones that you could order on Amazon with all the glitter and stuff, nothing. No, that's, pointless.
I had a couple of M95s in my work truck because, when it all went down as construction, I was deemed essential. So everybody was like, we don't care. We want our stuff to continue. And I was like, okay. I guess so. And then this is years ago. Things got obviously much worse than anybody thought. And I was like, I don't care if you want to continue. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking 2 weeks per the suggestion. And then the 2 weeks did nothing and became 18 years. and here we are.
Right?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
Still dealing with it.
Yeah. But anyway, refocusing. What do you do?
So I am a commercial and business broker, and I am an exit planner.
Okay.
So I help business owners build value in their company and get them ready to sell their business 3 to 5 years out before they're ready.
Oh, okay. So I am one of those people who didn't know that that was a thing.
Right.
So I'd love to break both of those down. So more on the topic of this podcast, commercial broker, you're doing commercial real estate sales.
That's right.
Right.
Leasing, sales.
Okay.
Yeah, purchasing.
More in the leasing side or the purchasing and sales side?
Leasing right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I specialize in restaurants and bars.
Okay. They're never going away. Yeah.
They're never going away.
Yeah.
Why people are still opening them is a little bit beyond me. It's hard to find and maintain employees.
Yeah, that's across the board. That's
Across the board.
That's not restaurant specific. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But
I'm still very intrigued by an uptick in leasing, and like yes, less surprised when you say it's specifically food industry because it doesn't matter what happens, people need to eat
for sure.
And even in COVID, the ones that could just got styrofoam and started doing takeout.
That's right.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Starting new though, like, unless you truly know nothing else but how to run a kitchen and you're, by the way, really good at it, that before COVID even was considered the number one most risky businesses.
Yes.
Something like 80 or 90% of restaurants close in the first year.
Yes.
Due to lack of capital and just lack of knowing what's going on. Mm-hmm. I've always said that if I were to ever do anything in that industry, I would call John Taffer day one from Bar Rescue and just be like, what is your management? What is your fee?
What do I need?
What's your fee to come set it up for me? Come give me the systems. Like, I'm not I have great skill in my kitchen. Mm-hmm. People I cook for are like, great job. But that's a very high and big different than running the exact menu with perfect consistency and hygiene standards. Right. Like, I test my sauce with my pinky finger. That's not allowed in a commercial kitchen.
It's not allowed, no.
Yeah. I went as far once to write out a funny but very workable menu for a food truck. And
that's fun.
It was super fun. It was like a sandwich kind of situation.
Yeah.
And every sandwich was named after a member of my family.
I love that.
It was basically like their favorite things.
Yeah, okay. I bet they love that.
They thought it was pretty funny, except for my sister, because my sister Alyssa does not really cook. Okay. So the Alyssa was, you pay us $6.95 plus tax, we give you $7 to go spend at another restaurant. So it's basically just a joke. But
I thought it was going to be like a piece of cheese slapped between two pieces
that
of bread.
That we could have done that too. Either way, she would have been like, "What the hell?" Whereas my brother loves, spicy peppers and Italian subs, so that was his. And my mom, we're a Jewish family. My mom makes incredible Jewish brisket. So I was like, the Beth will be the brisket sandwich.
Yeah.
My dad cannot do anything but cook French toast and grill, and he eats chicken every meal he can. So I was like, cool, we're doing something with roast chicken up there.
Yep.
And it just, my brother married a full Irish lady, so we were doing something Irish. Like, it was just a goof
bangers
joke.
And mash.
Something like that. Yeah. It was a goof joke. I have deleted the menu since, but I was like, man, I could fund the food truck. Yeah. I don't want to work at it.
Yeah.
I got a menu.
So this is you and like a lot of other people who sit at their desk and say, I don't want to do this job anymore. Maybe I'll run a bar or a restaurant, right? And then they find my listings on Biz Buy Sell and express interest in it. Great. But I've got to talk to you and find out what's your background.
Right.
Have you ever managed people before?
Right.
Who are you going to hire in the kitchen? How do you, all of this comes into play.
Yeah, you need all the relationships with your providers, with your
absolutely.
Who's going to get you your beer, your soft drinks, who's going to get you your food products.
What
they
kind
don't
of
all
capital
come.
Are you working with?
Right.
Yeah.
Your food products don't all come from the same people on the same day.
That's right.
You need
tons of kitchen staff all the way up and down from the last line of defense on the line that takes all the shit from Gordon Ramsay.
Never mind permits and liquor licenses.
Oh,
forget about it.
I don't even want to. I don't even know.
Right.
I don't even know. Like I know that North Carolina and alcohol is tough because it's like I come from New York originally, where it's like you could just walk into the equivalent of they call it Stop and Shop, but a Harris Teeter, and there's beer, wine, and liquor just in the grocery store.
Yeah,
not even with like a security tag.
So I'm from Boston originally. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We're from here now,
right? Yeah. But up there, if you were to purchase a restaurant or a bar, you have to look into a space that already has an existing liquor license and purchase that in conjunction with the space.
So you can't start anew anywhere?
No. They put a hold on that. I mean, years ago when I was there, they put a hold on that. We didn't have alcohol or wine and beer in grocery stores for many, many years.
Is this entire of Massachusetts or Boston specific? Or do you not know?
No, some parts like Gloucester and more towards the Cape were dry counties altogether.
Whoa.
Like, who does that?
I don't understand.
So
the
I
point
think
of
they've
that.
come a long way since then. But I know that it was very difficult to get a liquor license in general in Boston. So down here, it's like, okay, now you're taking over the space. Now you might be purchasing this business. You have to apply for the liquor license because it doesn't convey when you buy the business.
Right.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, especially if you're not selling liquor. Why have to go through that?
Well, for sure. But if you are selling liquor and you're taking over the space, you can't just say, okay, you're the new buyer who's going to own this business. Here's my liquor license. Just assume everything. This state won't let you do that.
Yeah, again, to reference John Taffer from Bar Rescue, he has done a few Raleigh episodes.
Yep.
And he's never dove into it in full because it would probably take too long, but he has definitely mentioned the level of difficulty that's a little bit above and beyond. He probably has the direct phone number of everybody in every state and is like, hey, it's John again. Can you push this through a little bit easier? We got the paperwork filled out.
Right.
But not everybody has that connection,
Yeah. Never mind if you get into a space and you need to do some build out. If you're pulling permits, you can't even apply for a liquor license. You have to have that CO completed and all the work completed before you go and apply for that.
In North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So you need to forget about contacting you and leasing everything.
Yeah.
You need to permit, obviously, build out your whole restaurant, and then upon completing
I can help them lease it, right, ahead of time, and then they'll get their architect to come in. This is what the plans look like, and then contract it out. And then once it's complete, that's when they can go and apply. So it'll take months.
Right, or years. Mm-hmm. I mean, depending on how long your build process takes, because that's different for everybody, depending on how elaborate it is. Right. And so you're telling me that when it is done and you are ready to open, you still have to then apply for your... So do restaurants just open without liquor while it's pending?
Some do. But what I'm saying is if you've pulled permits to build out, you definitely need that CO. What's that stand for again? It's a
certificate of occupancy.
Yeah. Right. And so you definitely need that because the ABC board's going to look that up.
Yeah. It's the same with residential. Like when I'm redoing houses, like I can't have the tenant move in without the CO. It could be done. Sure. It could be finished, like actually done and actually finished, and it doesn't matter. And until the final, what's called the final, it's the final building inspection where everything is done, like even the final paint, and the dude literally is walking around to be like, okay, looks good.
Right.
Let me check. Does this outlet work? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I can see a little bit of daylight where the door jamb is. You got to adjust the, like, whatever. And I'm like, man, you're really just looking for an excuse to fail people. Like, okay, man, I will adjust the weather stripping. Like, my adjustment is pull it out a little bit to stop the daylight. Like, what are we doing here, man? Come on. Just rebuilt an entire home. You're giving me crap about weather stripping. But I have failed literally for that. That's a real life. That's a real life example.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I failed for that and a small pile of trash in the crawl space where like my electrician just like clipped all his wires and stuff and put it in a neat pile and forgot to throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And the guy failed me. And I literally went to my truck and started putting on gloves. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to go get the garbage. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And he was nice in my opinion. He was like, oh, if you're going to do it right now, I'll just wait to type this into the computer for 30 minutes. And I was like, I'm going to do it right now. And he was like, okay, I can pass that for you. And I was like, yeah, it's my house, man. I care. But, I had this discussion with somebody else that like, the building inspector, he doesn't know you and he shouldn't. But what I mean by that is like, if you're a building inspector, it's, I would assume, not that fun to be rolling around in a base model, shitty government-issued pickup truck that has a laptop screwed to the center console.
Yeah.
And you're just going from one house to the next house to the next house to the next house all day long. And you don't know if this house is built by somebody who is immediately selling it upon the CO and at that 1-year warranty mark is like, woo, we made it.
Right.
Or going to a house where I build everything above and beyond because it's my rental house that I have to maintain for a minimum of 10 years because that's what our brain is telling us, our business brain. And everything's overbuilt because I know if it breaks, it's just me that has to come and fix it.
Right.
So I'm like, let's avoid that. But he doesn't know.
Right.
If, John Doe builder who's just like, we need to get to that 1-year mark. If the pan leaks a year and a day, I don't care. Whereas I'm like, damn, if the pan leaks at any point, go use the other bathroom. Call me. We're ripping that out. We're redoing it. Like, I need it to not leak. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
But the inspectors have no idea. So they have to approach it all with like worst case scenario in mind. And that definitely, it definitely hurts guys like me who are like, man, you really failing me over this? Like, look around. Look at how we're doing this job. Clearly, we're. I
appreciate that they're thorough.
Yeah, no, of course.
But you don't want to fail something that can easily be, like you said, picked up and thrown away. Like,
exactly, and so. I give them a lot of crap sometimes because the tiniest stuff, especially in the plumbing regard, like I don't seem to ever see this with HVAC and electric.
Okay.
I see a lot of like, HVAC, you're good, or I need you to fix this one thing that's real obvious and real quick. And my HVAC guys are like, oh yeah, we missed that. Come back, fix it, done.
Right.
Okay. Whereas the plumbing, I am unclear if one of my plumbing partners is a dick or if the inspectors are rotated and fired and rotated so quickly. But it's always an argument of the interpretation of the literal words of the code.
Huh.
And for me, as the person who just sees like it has failed on the computer and then has to tell the plumber why and be like, you go fix it. And then he has to call me and be like, what do you, like the code says blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care about your gray area. Just go make the inspector happy. Like at some point, I have to be like, yo, I'm not a plumbing expert. I don't know what he cares about. I don't know what you allegedly think is correct. I don't even know what code you're referring to. All I know is like, I'm the GC and you're my plumber. And if you want to get paid for passing the rough in, you got to fix it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but that never happens with my other subs. It's always like, oh, this was clearly just missed, fix it. Whereas the plumbing, they're always arguing with the inspector about the literal verbiage in the code book.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't write the code. I'm not involved with how they hire plumbing inspectors.
Yeah.
I'm not involved with how they train anybody. I know that the turnover rate for City of Durham is atrocious
Is it?
because I am sending stuff in all the time for permits, and I get an email back from somebody who's been there 5 seconds, and they like ask me for something I don't need, or they tell me something's filled out incorrectly, and I'm like, you're asking for my permit number? Did you look at the slot that says permit number where I wrote the permit? Or my license number? It says license number, and I wrote like, what are you talking about? And they're like, I literally had one email back, my bad, didn't see it.
Oh,
it's like, man, you came at me hard. Came at me kind of hard, and it was there the whole time. You screwed up. They wrote my contractor PIN as my license number and my license number as my contractor PIN.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's not my fault. I put it in the right spot.
Yeah.
Y'all typed it in. Where's the training? Where's the
You know?
training? Right. But then today I'm emailing back and forth, and it was just my screw up. I wrote 1917 instead of, or I wrote 1918 instead of 1917. There is no 1918. So they literally emailed me back, this house isn't coming up on the tax plat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've been there several times. It's like a 30-year-old house.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
And they send me a map, and they're like, which one is it? And I'm like, it's that one right there, 1917. And they're like, you wrote 1918. I'm like, oh, that's me. That's me.
I did that,
Yep.
a few weeks ago, and I had somebody coming out to change a lock on a building out in Chapel Hill. And I was like, it's 9:03. What, are you driving past it? Where are you? And the guy was like, you mean 9:30? And I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Sorry, didn't I say that?
Yeah. Yeah. So to be fair, the client gave me plans that said 1918
Oh, okay.
instead of 1917.
Yeah.
So I looked at the plans and filled out the paperwork with the address that was on the plans because it has to match.
Yeah.
So I then emailed the customer and was like, whoever you got these plans from, we're going to need that switched.
Yeah.
We're gonna need the right,
definitely.
Going to need the right address.
Yeah. Yeah. That
So-
was not your fault then.
It's a little bit my fault. I've been there a lot for other jobs.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of my fault. But I mean, you know, they would have failed that either way. If everything said 1917
That's
and then the
right.
plan said 1918, they'd be like, these addresses aren't the same. And I would have been like, oops, nobody saw it. So,
Yeah. Glad
So,
we
you
caught
know.
it early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what are you going to do?
Right.
I emailed them back and I was like, can you switch this or do you need me to white out everything
Yeah,
and
I know.
scan? And I haven't heard back.
Oh,
so
they were
I'm
like,
hoping
this guy.
I'm hoping they can just change it real quick because
Right.
it's like I told them they sent me an aerial tax map. I was like, it's that one.
Yeah.
See the house with the garage? We're trying to build the garage out. It's
They're
right
like,
there.
My dude.
Haven't replied yet, but yeah.
Do you do any commercial properties like
I have done
contracting on it?
2 commercial jobs.
Okay.
Without the commercial license, they're capped at $30K.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were well and clear going to be under. So I told them, I was like, just get your permit as a person, as a homeowner.
Yeah.
And here's my license number to be used and checked and all that. But like all my subs can do this.
Yeah.
You know, my electrician has both licenses. My sheetrocker, they're not licensed. No sheetrockers are licensed. Everyone's got the insurance. And then my plumber has both licenses. So
Right.
we were like, the people can do all this. You don't even need HVAC work. It was like if you're familiar with Hillsborough,
Yeah.
the strip mall between Walmart and Home Depot,
Mm-hmm.
there's Happy Hearts Tattoo. I did that build out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was like, you know, the strip mall's built.
Yeah.
This empty box was leased.
Yeah.
We had to rip out one non-load bearing partition wall
Yeah.
and build a couple of like cubicle height walls basically for
Right.
tattoo sections,
Yep.
work areas. Sorry. And then just like add a cleanliness sink for the needles or something like that beyond the bathroom.
Right.
So it was all like very, very simple, super easy. Client knew exactly what he wanted. He was like, I'm even going to paint, so I don't need a paint price. You know, my
Okay,
girlfriend and I
yeah,
are going to
that's
epoxy
great.
our own floors. And I was
Yep.
like, cool, you need like sheetrock and some
Yeah.
metal studs. This is easy. So it was super easy. I did not enjoy it as much as I wanted to, but that's due to the city of Hillsborough.
Okay, that's fair.
They are not work with
Responsive?
you type of people.
Yeah, I know.
It's very unfortunate because like when you go to the tiny town of Hillsborough, which I just bought land outside of and will be living there for the rest of my life because I'm designing a live forever home.
Okay.
But
Hillsboro's a great spot.
Yeah, I'm right outside in Hurdle Mills.
Yeah.
But like you go into that tiny, tiny little office and there's like 3 old ladies and they're really nice in person.
Yeah.
But then now they're doing everything's online. So and the office has been closed. They never reopened after COVID.
Oh, did they
just
not?
have never reopened.
Yeah.
You go there and it's like email or call this number.
Yeah.
And it's just like your office only has 7 total people.
Yeah.
Just hey, has anybody got a call from Corbett? He's on the line and he can't, we're looking for this one piece. No. It's like we can't help you without this.
Yeah.
In order to get this, you get this, and then you can't get the thing they want. And it's like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right.
Like we're on one team here of like you have an abandoned space.
Yeah.
This dude's trying to build it and run a small business, a respectable small business,
Yeah.
I might add. Like tattoos are no longer, for only criminals and the Navy.
That's right.
Like it's a respectable thing, Him and his wife run a tattoo shop together. It's adorable. They painted the walls pink.
Yeah.
Like it's cute and it's successful. But it's like, I remember we thought it was done. And I got like threatening letters
Oh my gosh.
from Hillsboro that was like, if you don't figure out this backflow inspection, whatever, we're going to close the business. We're going to file against your contractor's license. We're going to do this, that, and the third. And I was like, I got a CO 3 months ago.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Does that matter?
Like, also, how about just a phone call of like, hey,
hey, by the way,
in the system, the backflow isn't logged. And because it was the simplest thing. Like I called the owner and I was like, hey man, he was like, I got the same letter. And I was like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, as the owner, I'm just dealing with it. Call and like, they just have to come do a backflow test, which is like free. And then they'll say it passed. And I was like, okay,
yeah, great.
I was like, what's up? He was like, I don't understand why they're like threatening us like this.
My gosh.
He had the same opinion, shout out to Jeff. I know you're not listening because you're running a business, but like, it just made no sense. The like way they chose to go about it when it's like, we're Hillsboro, we're small town charm, we're small town feel, we're, one team, one dream, except when you want to do anything.
Right.
Then we're just like, no.
Yeah.
F off.
Yeah,
And
I know.
Even starting the job, I had similar issues with like, they wouldn't let my dumpster guy drop his dumpster without paying some stupid fee and becoming like a licensed dumpster person in Hillsboro.
Oh my God.
And I was like, Apex Dumpsters has been around 45 years.
Right.
I need them to park a trailer
Yeah.
for 3 days. I need the trailer for 3 days. We're demoing a wall. I said the word demo. They were like, oh, you need an asbestos test.
Oh my God.
I was like, the strip mall was built in 2012. We stopped using asbestos 40 years ago. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, no. It's got to, like, anything you rip out, you need an asbestos test.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, you guys are really pushing this.
Yeah.
Like, I was super lucky that I called a friend who had a friend who had a friend. And I was like, hey, man, I have the easiest job in the world for you. I need you to come in here, take a piece of drywall that doesn't have asbestos and put it on an official piece of paper that says it doesn't have asbestos. And I'm going to give you the $150 to come out here and do it. And he was like, okay, I'll be there in 3 days. It was just so unnecessary. Here we go. Studio dog coming in to say hi. The old Willie Bear.
Honey.
But it's just like, that really soured me on commercial jobs. I'm trying to change the mental perspective that might just be Hillsboro and not be commercial jobs.
Well, different cities are different. I've been, I had clients. I had 2 clients actually. They're opening hookah bars in Greensboro.
Okay.
And Greensboro is like its own entity in and of itself. I mean, dealing with them, they're really jumping through hoops. Never mind the ventilation that you
I was going to say that's a
statewide
that's a
thing.
job or not a job. That's an establishment that just has more hoops.
Oh,
if we're
most
being
definitely,
honest.
especially if you're serving alcohol,
right?
And so the parking has to be right, and you can't be around residential. And so there's all these factors that come into it. But yeah, I've just been kind of going through it with them and speaking to lawyers and, their architect. And
So you're still very involved, even though they've leased it from you.
yeah.
Or have they not officially? They have in this case.
Yeah, they have, and I've stepped back from it for sure, but there's, sometimes where my client or past client, if you will say, hey, this is what's going on. And I like it when they keep me updated, like, hey, are you guys open yet? Can I come, visit and give you some support? And they're like, no, not yet. We're still, and it's a bunch of red tape.
Yeah.
So
Did you do commercial real estate when you were in Massachusetts?
no.
Okay. What were you
So,
doing before when you were up there?
bartending.
Bartending. Okay. So you learned a lot about how the liquor licenses work as a
Absolutely.
bartender.
I
Yeah.
have a 30-year history with restaurants and bars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where my background is, hence my asset class, because it just makes sense.
Right.
I know how the money works. I know how the hiring, the firing, how the tips go. I know all of that.
Not that you couldn't, but you're just less versed in an office building.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So it just made sense. And I can have those kind of conversations with the business owner, and they know that I know exactly what they're talking about.
I mean, it sounds to me that that's a huge asset to anybody who might be using you as a broker for a restaurant space.
For sure.
Because you have
Personal.
very educated answers that are unofficial.
Right.
That if they wanted official answers, if they wanted the same answers to be official, they'd have to hire a third party.
Yeah.
They'd have to get some sort of consultant, or they have to bring on someone early who has the experience that you already have.
Right.
So if specifically you are trying to, rent a commercial space that was a restaurant or will become a restaurant, that's a huge added bonus that they happen to get your number.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
How we're plugging you here.
Thank you.
How many on average, because I've heard drastically confusing numbers, how many on average transactions are you doing commercial real estate a year?
Let me see. I want to say about 8 to 10.
Okay. So maybe the numbers I hear are just realistic then, because
I'm sure.
Comparing to
Residential.
this is more for listeners than for you, because you obviously know, but like
For sure.
comparatively to a residential realtor who's trying to sell 500 homes at once.
Yeah.
It's very, very different.
Yes.
It's not that it's easier or less work or any of those terms that make one seem better than the other.
Right.
But it does seem to be the course of, like, it takes a lot more physical work and time to get everything lined up to get this commercial lease or sale done. But it's a bigger product, therefore
so
more
I was
money.
in residential.
Okay.
I've been in real estate since 2017.
Okay.
And
who are you with?
I'm with EXP Commercial.
EXP. Okay.
And so starting off in residential, but I always wanted to move to commercial because I like working with investors. And EXP just kind of made it easy for me with the training, and the splits are really nice. So jumped over there. But you have to understand when coming to commercial that the timeline is very different. I mean, if I'm putting in an LOI, which is a letter of intent, to lease a space for my client, that other broker might not get back to me for a week.
Right. See, that's unheard of in residential.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Because the house would be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be sold.
You're trying to close. And if you haven't heard back from that other broker in residential, you're like, oh my God, what's happening?
Right. It's gone.
Why
Yeah.
So trying just to get residential brokers to understand that aspect of it, just chill. Like, people are going to get back to you.
When did you switch over from residential to commercial?
About 2 years ago.
Okay. So I'm very curious as to that timeline with COVID being basically in the thickest it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we can argue about that, but we don't have to. It was bad.
Yes.
And it was in one of its more aggressive time frames.
Yes.
and probably to your very much, no, why is this happening? People are realizing we don't need an office. Or a lot of people. I'm not talking about everybody. We're doing a generality statement here, but I know a lot of people who had to go into an office, and now they have a laptop at home and they do the exact same job, and the office is like, why were we doing this? Why did we have you come in? This is way better.
Right.
And I know, like, for example, my girlfriend Jen, hi Jen, if you're listening,
Hi Jen.
her company is in Texas.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we don't care where you are. Not only that, they sent her, I don't remember the exact amount of money, but a significant amount of money, $400 or $500, to be like, buy a desk chair, buy a lamp.
Yeah.
You know, here's a stipend for Staples or whatever.
Yeah.
They sent her a laptop.
Nice.
You know, they were like, you should probably get a second screen. Here's some money for that. And then 4 times a year, they fly everybody from all over the world to Austin, where their headquarters are. And they then reimburse everybody for their travel.
That's beautiful.
And they do this like hub week 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And one of them is in December, so
IRL
it doubles as a
events.
Christmas party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it's a startup in that its classification is technically startup, but if we're being honest, it is a bigger company than what you think of when you think of a startup.
Yeah.
And they're about to leave startup and become like bigger and badder, getting more like money company.
Yeah.
And they do like SaaS. They do, Jen is she basically just like gets an email ticket from a customer that's like, hey, my payment link doesn't work. And she'll be like, oh, let's fix that. And be like, oh, it's actually you clicking on the wrong thing. Or this setting was off, fixed, So that's what she does.
Yeah.
She's tech support for that.
Okay.
And it's very...
And you can do that remote.
Not only can you do that remote, it's no phones. It's only email or like an instant message kind of chat thing. So she doesn't have to physically talk to people, which I know for her and for me is amazing.
Yeah.
And, at most she's doing video chat with like her boss or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But just illustrates the point of like that company was doing everything in Austin, everything.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they were like, wait a minute, we don't, like, why?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies came to that realization that,
from a company perspective, if you need people to come into the office, you are limiting your search pool of talent to people within the commuting radius and or people who are willing to uproot a life to come move to where your company is.
Right.
Whereas if you are like, we can just do it all online, you are limiting now to where is the internet, which is everywhere but the Congo.
Right.
And even still, the Congo might have some satellite internet I don't know about.
Who knows?
But like, it's freeing.
Yeah.
Because I remember somebody else who was working for that company. They still do, but they got the job before Jen, and it was early enough on in the COVID kind of life and world where they were like, yeah, when this is over, be prepared for a discussion about you having to move to Texas if you want to keep this job.
Interesting.
And I was like, man, I'm going to miss you.
Yeah.
Because like, this is a great job and you're probably going to go.
Yeah.
That got abandoned.
Yeah.
That got abandoned. The company was like, wait a minute. Why?
Yeah.
What's the...
and it's funny before, when I was still with residential and I was with a different company, I was still kind of working at home and sometimes would go into the office. But again, like when I switched over to EXP commercial, everything's virtual. We have that thing called the world. And so you have an avatar and you can go into the world, create your avatar, and then you're in classes and meetings in real time with people. So you're talking with them on the computer. You can ask them questions. You can type questions into the chat, but you're just using your avatar. So it's pretty cool.
Gotcha.
And then I go and take the speedboat out for a drive, but I can also call people on my team and say, hey, let's meet by the boat. And then we sit there and will sit around a table, quote unquote, our avatar will sit around a table, but I can say to them, like, do you guys have any questions? Can I help you with anything? What's going on this week? That sort of thing. So I think it's cool. A lot of that has moved to like Zoom meetings and
Yes.
and team meets and stuff like that. I think because
Zoom's just the worst. Let's just say it. Like, it changed the world and it's helping, but like, is there anything worse than a Zoom meeting with more than one other person?
I just can't have another Zoom meeting in my life. I mean, I can't have enough.
I've had so many podcast guests that were like, "Oh, we could just do it over Zoom. It's hard for me to get out there." And I'm like, let's reschedule. I do not want to do it over Zoom. Yeah. I had one who wanted me to, I was actually just a guest on a podcast yesterday. Shout out to Brandon. Was it the Fire and Ice podcast or something like that? Fire Within, excuse me. But when I was sick, I had to cancel.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, the studio's not mine. I reserved it. Like, could we do it over Zoom? And I was like, if it's okay with you, I would very much like to reschedule and do this in person because I hate doing Zoom. Like, I've done a few, I have a friend in Vermont, a friend in New York, another friend in New York. We've done podcasts because it's impossible for them to get down here. And two of them are friends, and one of them is like my dad's good friend, who's kind of like a quasi uncle kind of situation. Yeah. So it was like, yes, I want to do it for you, but anybody who's like within an hour drive, I'm like, no, just tell me when you can come here. Like,
that's right.
It's so much better in person. It's a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
But I was more interested in how it might have changed for you, because yes, restaurants, they struggled. I doubt anybody was opening a new restaurant in the first year of COVID.
Right.
But so many businesses that may have been thinking about leasing a commercial office space probably did not. And
that's right.
Real estate is 100% commission based.
Yes.
So your commissions literally vanished.
Yep.
So what was that like?
Sure.
What was that like?
Yeah. So I lived off of an SBA loan.
So it was terrible.
Yeah.
Because that's not a way to live.
Because I used that downtime, if you will, to get a lot more credentials.
Okay.
And
so you were training.
I was training. Yeah, because I got into commercial. I'm doing all this training there. And then I found out about business brokerage, and I was like, ooh, what? And math? Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so what's an SBA loan first? What's SBA?
Small Business Administration. So so I have my own company is CSG Capital, and I also have SV Realty. So CSG Capital is underneath my SV Realty, and that I started with my residential. The CSG Capital, I started with my commercial.
Okay, what is CSG Capital? Because that kind of terminology makes me think you're a stockbroker, but I don't think you are.
Good, yeah.
Good, yeah. Okay.
Think what you want. I like the name, but it's commercial sales group.
Okay.
So it's just SG Capital. That's just the name of my firm under the EXP umbrella.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So instead of just being Sheryl Vazquez, you decided to make SV Capital.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, CSG Capital.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So, it's building that, doing the training, and then hearing about business brokerage. How can I get into that? So joining IBBA, which is the International Business Broker Administration.
Okay.
And
what is that entity?
Yeah.
Or what do they do?
It's like a group of business brokers who share information. If you go to ibba.org, it's a lot of training.
Okay.
What is business brokerage? How do I get into it? What do I need to know? So through EXP, they were like, okay, if you want to get into business brokerage, and mind you, anybody can do business brokerage. You don't even, some states you need a real estate license to do it, but you really don't here.
So what is business brokerage versus commercial real estate sales?
Right. So in commercial real estate sales, I can sell the walls. Right. I can lease the walls.
Right.
Right. In business brokerage, I can sell the business within the walls.
So you can not only lease 111 John Doe Drive, you can sell John Doe burrito makers or John Doe Plumbing who's renting that space as well.
Right. And I can do that nationally.
Ah, okay.
Right.
So that's not a state-by-state license where real estate is state-by-state and contracting state-by-state.
So I have a listing in South Carolina right now, restaurant.
And you're selling the restaurant or the space?
I'm selling the business.
The business.
Right. And it was a franchise.
Ah, so there's a lot of them.
There's another layer, right? But the franchise.
Can you say what it is?
I can. I think, it was a Clean Eats.
Clean Eats. Okay, I haven't heard of that.
So it's like prepared healthy foods, right?
Oh, cool. Like sent to your door type of foods?
Well, maybe they did some of that, but
like a factor or
but also people would come in and pick up food for the week, or they would have them make it there and take it home for dinner or whatever that looks like.
Okay. Cool.
My first line of business is to reach out to the franchise and say, hey, can we sell this as a franchise, or am I just selling it as an asset sale?
That's a big piece of information.
It is, because now if I'm not selling it as a franchise, there's a franchise fee to get into it as the purchaser. You have to pay $50,000, $60,000, whatever that looks like, to the franchisor. And if I can take that out of the equation for the buyer, then their capital just went up by $50,000.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
which is not small potatoes,
No.
50 to 60
especially if you're
grand
opening a restaurant.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
For sure.
That's a line cook's salary.
That's it.
Yeah.
For sure. So, the franchise was like, no, we don't have anybody else in this area who wants to open another Clean Eats, so you can sell it however you want to sell it. So I took the franchise fee out of it. You do some add backs as a business broker, because I'm looking at your tax records, your P&Ls, and your balance sheet. And then I have to add some things back. Do you pay your cell phone through the company? Are you paying for your car through the company? Travel, meals, everything else. Is there one salary for an owner, or is there two? And so can I add that back? What does that look like?
Let me ask you a question.
Are we keeping employees?
Hypothetically, if I buy Clean Eats, let's just live in a world where I'm keeping the location as well in this hypothetical, and I'm taking over the lease of the building and purchasing Clean Eats company, but we are not keeping the franchise tag. Do I have to change the name?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So you bought a restaurant, but you didn't buy Clean Eats if you're not doing the franchise.
So right.
part.
So how I need to know, because I need to know how I'm marketing it, right? And so if it's not going to be sold as a Clean Eats, now it kind of becomes an asset sale, because my seller doesn't own the property. He's leasing it.
Right.
So this is where it's solely a business broker deal, right? And he owns certain assets, tables and chairs, equipment that's in there.
Restaurant equipment.
And so now that's how I'm marketing it.
Yeah. Commercial kitchen costs at least $90,000 to $100,000.
Oh my gosh. So I need to get with the owner of the space, the landlord, and discuss, is the lease assignable, or are you drawing up a new lease with the buyer? So I need to know those things, but I definitely want to keep them involved. Some landlords think that I'm trying to circumvent that. I'm not. I need them to get in touch with me so we can all be on the same page, and I can convey what it looks like to the buyer.
There's just so many added layers in the commercial side. There are a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're adding business brokerage to it as well.
Right, but this is not a thing in residential.
It's not.
It just doesn't exist.
No.
If you were running a home business, you move. Before you sell the house, it doesn't stay there.
Right,
it's not going to.
And so that's another thing. Yeah. Like for your company, for example, right? Are you the sole person in your company?
Yeah,
the company operates around you. You are the company.
Robert Storick of CRS Contracting.
So that's hard to sell, because if we pull you out of the business, there is
what are you
no
buying?
business. Right.
Yeah. I mean, other than a Rolodex of contacts,
right,
and a garage full of tools, there's nothing to buy.
Right,
like
unless
I don't
you
even
have
think I can give
contracts with people.
Right, unless I had
right?
a lot of existing recurring contracts, which is not really a thing in my world. You know, if I was a handyman and I had like 6 apartment complexes that were like, you are our go-to guy, and we have a contract that says we're going to keep you through 2034, that's all of a sudden you now have something to market and sell. But like even my contractor's license, I don't even know if I can just transfer it that easily. I'm pretty sure I have to like bring somebody into the business. You do. And then I could transfer it to them. And then I could leave the business. Yeah. Whereas like, I'm not interested in doing that at all. I wasn't implying that you were trying to get me to do that. I was just saying like, I've never even thought about it because it's not interesting. If I want to go and do something completely different, I will still just keep my license because it's very easy and cheap to keep my license. I will keep that till I die. Right. Because it's like take one day totaling of 8 hours of Zoom continuing education, which is, are you a human? Do you have a pulse? Stand in front of the screen. There's no test. There's no participation. There's no nothing. And then refile every year. It's like $200.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, for me at this point,
why not?
It's a total why not. Yeah. You know, if this podcast becomes my full-time thing, I'll probably still keep it just so I can podcast as a licensed GC and be involved in that world. Also, I own so many rental properties that I am the maintenance guy. Yeah. So, but those are completely separate. Yes. Those are owned by a different LLC that I am an owner and partner of an LLC. So like that's not associated with CRS contracting, other than CRS contracting pulled the permits and did the work. Right. But that's over. Like that still doesn't give you anything in terms of a leg to stand on of what you're trying to sell.
That's right.
I don't have a space. I don't have those contracts. I'm not giving up the tools. You know, it's like you start adding it up. What are you buying? Yeah. You're buying an LLC that, unless your initials are CRS, doesn't help.
So it's funny that you mentioned space, because you don't need a space to sell a business. However, I've had a lot of people come to me and want to buy the business just to get into the space.
Interesting.
They're going to change the concept.
100%. They just want the building.
That's it. They want the lease. They want to take over the lease.
It's no different in my world where somebody wants the house real bad, but they're just going to demo it because they want the property. Yeah. They want the land. They're like, this land with $80,000 of demolition cost is still worth more for us to demo, spend $600,000 to build a $2 million house and sell it for $2 million.
Well, so then we have to look at what is the purchase price of the business and how much you can bring that down. Because does it make sense for you to buy an existing business that you're not going to use, right? So you're basically buying out the lease. Right. Right? Or does it make sense to find a space and build it into a restaurant space? Or
find someone else who wants to buy the business without the space so that you could swoop in and take the space. Right. But as that just adds more layers.
Absolutely.
And you just have to have like more and aggressively frank conversations with your potential clients about like, what's the end game? Yes. Like, don't beat around the bush with me. Tell me what you want.
Comes in.
Right. Exit planning.
And so that's the third thing. Right. And I have to have those conversations up front. Like, what does your life look like after you sell the business? Right. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? How do you fund that? And how much money is it going to take to fund that?
So how do you even have a conversation with somebody like me?
I can if I've had contractors come to me before and they're like a one person show, same thing, and say, what does this look like for me if I want to sell in 5 years? And I say, okay, first of all,
I'm about to ask you, what does it look like? So please continue.
So
for the record, I have no desire to sell in 5 years or even ever. I'm just very curious. Like, I look around at what I would have to physically give somebody and like, you're not getting my tools. Right. And you're not getting my truck. Right. And my office is this bedroom that we're in right now where we're doing a podcast, which you're not going to get because it's part of my home. And I have no contracts that are like long-term continuous work. Right. So literally, what would I be selling?
Right. And so I might say to you, like, this is not sellable.
Yeah. It's a Rolodex of contacts that they're not even like exclusively only allowed to work with me. You know, like if I give you my plumber's number, you could just call him.
Right.
You know, he knows to put $100 on it for me because I'm going to tell him Cheryl's going to call you and she needs this, that, and the third. And don't rip her off and throw 100 on it for me. And I go, perfect. Okay, done. But if I sell that number to you, you could have just Googled him.
So for instance, I have a home inspector that reached out to me and he said, listen, I'm a one-person Joe here. What if I want to sell my business?
Right.
And I say, all right, what kind of contracts do you have in place? Do you have any employees that work under you? He's pretty much like doing his own thing. And I said, if you're going to think about that, and I appreciate the fact that you're like, my tools are staying with me, my truck's staying with me. Knowing that is really great for me because you convey that to me and I'm like, cool, we don't sell that stuff, you know? But I said to my home inspector, if you can pull somebody in and train them to kind of be you, then you have something that might be sellable because you have all the contacts and then what systems are you using, right? Because those are sellable too. Honestly, like one man shows are really hard to sell.
Yeah, I mean,
because anybody can go and get a license and like start their own business, and it would probably cost the same. You know, if you think about it.
You know, it's specifically to me, it is very hard to get a GC license, but I mean, it's not like it's impossible,
right?
And if you have, you know, if you're not dyslexic like me, it's probably a lot easier to study for that test and just get the license.
Yeah.
You know, you only need, I think, like $17,000 of total capital, and that can be like tools and cash and a truck. So it's pretty easy.
But like
tools
you
are
would
expensive.
have to go and get that license anyway. If they're taking over your business, they would have to have their own license.
Yeah, or we would have had to make some sort of arrangement where I was like, cool, on paper, you now work for me for a year, and then I can transfer it to you, and you could just...
Can you transfer a GC license, or is it like there is specific training that you have to go through?
Well, you don't need any training to go take the test.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I had training, and it, believe it or not, actually worked against me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because what you learn in the field and what you have to just regurgitate on a test are not the same thing.
Welcome to real estate.
Yeah, but on the GC exam, the slang term that you use every day is one of the 4 multiple choice options. So they're like really trying to trip you up.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, so it's like I know how to correctly frame the door opening, you know, header, jack stud, king stud, whatever. But we'll use some slang on the site and it will be an option and you'll select it and you'll be wrong.
Yes.
And then you got to be like, oh, right. The book says it's this. But like I've been doing it correctly every time.
Yeah.
We just have a different terminology.
That's right.
You know, and they know that. And they know that. And to me, it's like almost rude that's why people are failing. Like, make the capital requirement higher or make the fee to take the test twice as much. If you want us to just pay to do it twice, just make it twice as expensive.
Yeah.
Like we could just do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you really want? It's about money, right?
Always.
Okay. So if you just want more money, just make it more money. Like, the mental stress of trying to tell me, who's been doing it. I mean, literally, my dad's an architect. My mom's an interior designer. I've been doing this my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Even high school, building sets for theater department.
Nice.
So it's like, but that mentally screwed me up.
Yeah.
Of like, wait, what did I get on this test that I've been actually studying for and do this, by the way? And oh, by the way, I've been doing a house. So you had someone else pull me a permit. Like, I've been doing, a whole house.
Right.
And it's like, you're telling me I don't know how to do it. I know how to do it.
Right.
But, the PSI state test administrative asshole doesn't care about any of that.
No.
They just want the dollars. So in my head, just make it twice the money.
Yeah.
Just, you want me to take it twice? How about just make it reasonable and make it cost twice as much?
Yeah.
It would just be, to me, it just seems like the move. But I'm not in charge of that stuff.
Who do you talk to?
Nobody will listen to me.
No.
Yeah.
I get it.
If I got a PSI test administrator in here for a podcast, I would be very mean. I feel like I would just rip into him.
So?
Yeah, I feel like, or her. I'd be
You'd
very
ask the
upset.
hard questions.
Well, I would just be like, were you bullied as a child?
Right,
Why
right.
do you do this? Like, come on, man. Like,
WTF.
like, yeah, what's going on?
Yeah,
you know, and the proctors are even worse.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what that means, like the person who actually sits there and monitors you while you take a test. I had such a bad time the second time I took the test.
Yeah.
And it was the same proctor lady, and her just like, you know, I don't know about you and how you did your residential or your real estate license, but for me, I'm going in there now for the second time to take it. I got all these stack of books I got to bring in, paper, calculator, all this bullshit.
Right.
And literally just the devil in the form of an old gray-haired fat lady trying to rip everybody down. I know there's rules to follow, but there's a way that you could
deliver that.
There's a way you could deliver it. Like, oh, you can't bring your cell phone in. Cool. It's off in a bag. No. It's got to be in your car.
Yeah, that's how they did it.
Like, okay, I get it. You've got rules, but there's like a way to go about it. It was so bad that it threw me off for the whole test.
Yep.
Failed again.
Oh my gosh.
And then the third time I went to take it, I was like, you know what? I'm not going back there. And I drove an hour and a half extra to Fayetteville to go to a different test center.
Yeah.
Just to get a different person.
How, was that better? A better experience?
Infinitely. I got an 84.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
You know, passed was great. They tell you passed right away.
Yeah.
So I was like, boom, let's celebrate.
Yeah.
And it just was like, I even told the lady, I was like, you were so much nicer. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, the Raleigh person is so rude. And she was like, well, honey, you did great. Good job. All Southern Belle, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I got to go celebrate. She's like, yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
You know, and I looked at, everyone was a real estate except for one other dude. I looked at him. He had passed. I was like, we did it. Let's get out of here.
Do you have your real estate license or no?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Good for you.
I didn't get it. I have thought about it, but I don't know. It would.
You don't need it.
It would save a very small amount of what we're giving to our family realtor for the houses we buy once a year, where it's like, you know, we keep her in business too. You know, it's like, you know, it.
I'm all about having people around you that are, you know, specialists.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do everything. I don't want to do everything. You know, so I surround myself. I have tons of SBA lenders. I have financial planners, estate planners, insurance people. You know, so if business owners need those people, I can always refer them out because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax specialist. Yeah.
And you know, I love this quote. I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it exactly, but it's something along the lines of competition only happens at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in reality, if you find somebody who's doing the exact same thing as you, that's not really competition.
No.
You can bring both of yourselves up together.
Yep. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Because like,
I'm about that thinking too.
Yeah. And you know, I used to try to do as many things as I could myself. And now it's like, wait a minute. I hate painting. Why am I doing this?
And you save so much more time.
I have an expert.
Yeah.
Who shows up with a crew who owns the sprayer. I'm going and renting it. It's like, no, never again.
Yeah.
Why would I ever okay, so I spent a little extra money. Like, that's just what it costs.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, my subs are amazing. They reschedule stuff for me. They put off other people for me. They always fix stuff that's a mistake. Like, you know, at some point you need to realize that like there is no such thing as a one-man band. I just have the license.
Yeah.
But
everybody needs a team, and it only frees you up to do the things that you're good at.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Like this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm good at this, but I enjoy this. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah.
And you get to meet cool people like me.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. You might be the first commercial realtor I've met.
Oh, no kidding.
Or you're definitely the first one on the show.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't deal a lot in commercial real estate.
Right.
Yeah. One time I met a commercial realtor when I looked at a space in Durham.
Yeah.
And a friend introduced me to somebody who was like, I want to start a brewery. And I was like, I am your finance guy. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, are you serious? I was like, I am so beyond serious. You have no idea. Like, I would love to be the silent financier for a bunch of small businesses.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And I jumped in. I was like, so what does it cost to make beer? Who builds? he's like, basically there's no one who builds it. You kind of have to get it like custom made, the
Yep.
distillery or whatever. And I was like, okay, let's find that person. I started
Yep.
finding that people. And then I was like, hey man, I found a space.
Yeah.
I was like, I found a real space. And he was like, really? You work fast. I was like, dude, I said I was real.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Meet with the guy, perfect space. The guy who was going to make the beer never replied. And I was like, okay, cool.
What?
I was like, why'd you bother? Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, how sad.
Yeah. I don't, I can't control people's lives or whatever.
No,
he probably
yeah.
just enjoyed beer and thought it would be
This is
a
what I'm
cool
saying.
idea.
Yeah.
But
People are like, oh, it'd be fun to run a bar. Like, you don't know what you're doing.
So, okay. Do you watch shows like Bar Rescue, Kitchen Nightmare, Kitchen Makeover, whatever they're called?
I have seen like 1 or 2 episodes of that. I don't watch TV a lot.
We can't relate then. That's okay. Yeah.
And I tell you what, if I watch a show or a movie, I really can't remember what ever happened.
Hey, that's
So
fair.
It's not where my,
Hey.
I don't retain that sort of thing. And I don't know why, but I don't.
Hey, I am not judging that statement. I was just very curious as your unique professional perspective on seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
happen.
And so when Bar Rescue came out, I think when it first came out, of course, I was still bartending. So I would watch a couple of those episodes.
I would imagine as a bartender,
Mm-hmm.
it's cringe.
Some of it was.
Yeah.
It's like watching Gordon Ramsay just ream people out.
Yeah,
just like,
that's
that's
the same show,
unnecessary.
basically.
Exactly.
Because half of the bar rescues, they redo the food, and it's actually a restaurant, and
Yeah.
it just has a bar.
Right.
And then half of the Kitchen Nightmare ones, they have to revamp the bar, and so it's basically the same show, and I love them both.
But moreover, it's like you're dealing with the staff and their emotions and what's going on behind the scenes. And that staff is in every single restaurant.
Yeah.
That staff is in I've worked with them.
Well, there's a whole show that just has that.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the name, but there's a show that's like up there it's in the realm of like Kardashian reality TV. It's not like what I enjoy, but I know there's a show that like it's a very successful, a famous bar, I think in Vegas, but I could be screwing Vanderpump something.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
But it's basically that. It's just like a
Yeah.
bunch of like young hot bartenders,
Yeah.
and they all end up screwing each other,
Yeah.
and then someone gets mad, and
Yeah.
then one dude gets drunk and punches the other dude in the face.
So it's just reality
Yeah.
TV.
It's just reality TV.
Yeah. I definitely never have time for that.
Yeah. I guess in my brain, which let's be clear, is my brain and could be wrong, I've split those two facets of reality TV where it's like, because I as a construction person, I get like, I get excited at the construction part of like,
Yeah.
oh, they're redoing the floors.
Yeah.
And like, oh, look at all that new restaurant equipment. I want all that stuff,
Yeah.
And I kind of am just like laughing at the drama.
Yeah.
So I guess that's easy for me to split because like that Vanderpump or like the Kardashian stuff is just all drama and
Yeah.
they don't actually do anything. And I'm
Right.
like, I don't have time for this crap.
That's fair.
Yeah. But, I used to harshly judge people who were into that shit. And now I realize that like I watch trash TV. It's just different trash TV.
It's a nice escape though.
Yeah.
When you're just like sitting there and watching something completely mindless that has nothing to do with your reality.
Yeah, but also
I can understand that.
But also, who am I to judge what anybody watches?
Right,
Like,
but that's
I
why
love,
people watch, right?
right. But like, I loved CSI.
Yes.
That's garbage. They solve an unsolvable crime in 43 minutes flat.
like 48 hours or
Yeah,
something
it's
like
not
that.
possible.
Right? I know.
But like, I know people who love The Bachelorette.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is trash, but it's the same.
It's the same
But they're watching me watch CSI, going, "That's trash," and
yeah.
I'm like, I finally have realized it's the same trash.
all the same.
It's all trash. It's just different facets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but it's the same.
Yeah.
So like, you know, watch what you watch.
Anything I have time to watch is usually some kind of documentary on Netflix.
Well, you're smarter than me then. That's a good use of your time.
I guess so. I mean,
I'm
it's not, a lot
I'm
of
too
it is
sucked
about like
into-
murder mystery. So there's that, but
I mean, as long as it's not affecting your mental health.
for sure.
Because I know somebody who watched way too much,
Oh gosh.
like all, you know, true crime this, true
Yeah.
crime documentary, true crime podcast, just their life was true crime.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're very anxious as a person. I wonder why. Maybe we tone down the true crime,
Right.
bump up the Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Let's swap. But, you know, I mean,
You can watch your back though. It's good to it's good to watch your back, but not everybody's out to get you.
you know, but I mean, I'm glued to that Ahsoka show. Like, it's the best thing
what is
ever.
that?
It's the new Star Wars show that's taken over the
Oh,
world.
Ahsoka. I did see
Yeah.
the first episode.
Did I say
of
it
that.
wrong? Is Ahsoka?
I don't know what it is.
Okay. Maybe I said it
No,
wrong.
I think you're right. But
I don't know.
again, I can
I
watch
got
stuff and forget
Marvel.
about
I
it.
got Marvel all day. Star Wars is I like it, but I don't know it like well enough. But like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm binging that.
Yeah.
Granted, I had COVID, so why not?
Right,
But like,
right.
I'm
If you're gonna
watching
watch
that
anything,
like
right.
it's the end all be all of cinema.
Yeah.
It's the same garbage.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like there's, you know, I don't know how big you are into the history of like movies and stories and even books for that matter, but like if you want to get really stupid and technical, you can boil everything ever down to one of 6 or 7 stories from Shakespeare. Like everything.
Oh, that's true.
All of it.
Somebody else said that.
It's because it's a true thing.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember that. Mm-hmm.
you can pull out the different character. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're white. I don't
Yeah.
care if they're female. I don't care if it's in New York or ancient Rome. It does, or in the future.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
if you boil away all of the stuff, like person meets this person, conflict happens,
Yeah.
solution.
Right.
Like it's
Yep.
all one of like 6 or 7 stories.
Yeah, and it's like the same when people make this new movie just came out. That movie, how they said, and I'm so sorry, but I heard it. This is not my own opinion.
We're holding you to this.
Let me premise with that. Black Panther was a remake of Lion King.
I mean, basically.
Right? Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like when you come out with these new movies and you watch them and you're just like, that reminds me of this movie. Because it's like, here's the hero and here's the villain and this is what happens and this is where the conflict is. So it's all the same thing, maybe a different storyline, but that storyline has been done before.
Yeah. And like, let me be very clear. I love The Lion King.
Right.
I love Black Panther.
Right.
But also,
you
like,
could see that.
let's do another example. What is Avatar if not Pocahontas? I mean, it
Fair.
is literally meeting the indigenous, becoming one of the indigenous. Like it's literally Pocahontas.
That's so fair.
But it's just
The
3.5
visuals are so
hours and it's on an
pretty.
alien planet and
Yeah.
it's stunning and beautiful. And from a cinematic perspective, James Cameron using mostly what has been deemed video game technology
Yeah.
to create some of the most astounding visuals. I mean, you can hate the movie, you can like the movie, that's
Yeah.
almost irrelevant. But like
Yeah.
you can't fight the fact that like
Yeah.
one of the greatest filmmakers using some of the greatest technology we have
Yeah.
to this day
Yeah.
created one of the most beautiful movies ever made.
I'm going to
Like,
go
those
ahead
are
and ask
facts.
this question. I probably know the answer, but have you seen The Little Mermaid?
The new
Yeah.
one? No, I haven't caught it yet.
It is visually stunning.
It better be
Oh, right?
with all the controversy.
I know. It's so stupid. That's so stupid. She was perfect.
Yo,
in
people
that
were
role.
fighting over
I
the
know.
skin tone of a mermaid. It's a fake creature. It's a
have-
fake creature.
for sure. And how closely are you going to follow a Disney film?
You're not. You
Right.
don't follow Disney films.
Right.
The whole point is that you can look at the person watching it. If you're you, maybe pay attention to your laughing child. If
Yeah.
you're me, I'm on the phone
Yeah.
every time they sing. And then, it's like an episode of The Office. Tune back in. It's good. Doesn't
Right.
matter when you tuned out
Yeah.
or when you tuned back in. It's a Disney movie.
I mean, literally, if you don't pay any attention to it, it's just a beautiful, visually stunning.
I, for the record, have not skipped it for any reason other than I don't like musicals. Like the controversy was not even on my radar.
Yeah.
I
No,
laughed
not
at
at
it.
all.
I
Yeah.
just laughed at it. I was like, the people who are upset about this
Yeah.
are like in my opinion, small dick neo-Nazis in their mom's basement. And like their opinion is not even like worthy to be on the internet.
Should not have even come to light.
It's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know, but like, you know, I seem to come to that realization about a lot of like big, I'm using air quotes because they're not real controversies, but like big controversial stuff, at least on like the Facebook feed, is like, who's really upset? Is it like this ugly dude who's upset at all women because he got the genetic not lottery, and so he just assumes that women are bad because they never threw him the time of day? It's like, no, women are not bad. You're just ugly, unfortunately. Like, that sucks, but take a psychology class, get a therapist, and realize that the word, you know, become desirable in a different way. Yeah. But like, you know, how do you tell that as a non-therapist to people who aren't listening?
No, they don't listen.
Exactly.
And you're wasting your time.
Oh yeah, totally wasting your time. Yeah. It's you know, but you know, I witnessed it firsthand. And was very confused by it, to be honest. I follow, for the tiniest bit of backstory, I'm planning a road trip to see all 30 major baseball stadiums.
Oh my gosh, yes.
In one
That's
3-month road trip.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the studio dog to pass on to his next phase of life because I can't bring him with me. But there's this thing I just discovered. I planned this a couple years ago. I even have a map with like it mapped out and Sharpie and how many miles and who I'll stay with. But I was like, okay, so I'm going to take a picture here and I'm going to make this frame thing, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw this thing called, oddly enough, the MLB Passport.
Okay, cool.
And it's like this, you know, $70 leather book with all these pages. And there's a spot for an official stamp. And when you buy the book, does it tell you where to go get the stamp in each ballpark?
Oh,
so it's like
nice.
you can't fake it.
Okay.
I was like, oh, this kind of seems kind of cool. So I just, in this Facebook group called Ballpark Chasers, I posted, hey, does anybody have the MLB Passport? I'm curious about it. I've just learned about it. I'd love, if you live in
some kind of feedback.
If you live in around Durham, North Carolina, I'd love to physically get my hands on one just before I order it.
Yeah.
The controversy in the comments.
What?
Of people being like, if you can't remember the game, why are you writing this thing down in a book? What a stupid waste of money. Like, you know, just write it down on a piece of paper. Like, why do you need this fancy thing? And I was like, did I just suggest to put like nukes at a border somewhere? Right. Like, what is like, whoa. Mm-hmm. And like, also, I didn't engage other people. There's like three people arguing in the comments over my post.
Wow.
I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
To the point where I got nobody
to answer
my question, except for a few people to be like, yeah, I got it. It's cool.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, this should not be a controversial thing. But that just goes to show you that like
people are bored.
People are bored.
Yeah.
And like, you know, to me, I scuba dive. I have a dive log. I just write it down.
Yeah.
Dive number, whatever, this location, this date, who was I with, what did I see, what gear I used.
For sure.
I do it for nobody but me.
Right.
It's not going to help me advance anywhere. I'm already at the top of the level anyway.
Yeah.
It's just for me. I want to look at it when I'm 80.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is.
I love the idea of the MLB book.
But that's where my head was of just like, it would be cool to show nobody. This would be cool for me to be like nostalgic one day and just flip through.
But also you have everything in one place. Yeah. You know, you're not like writing stuff down on a piece of paper and then kind of where did that piece of paper go? You know, it's like having a photo album, if you will.
Exactly.
You know? So that could be your argument to them. I know you don't want to get involved with it, but it's like, what do you have a photo album for? You know, and some people say, you know, why are you at this event? You're taking pictures and filming. Just be present at the event. And I understand that as well. But at the same time, like you want to revisit those things too and have those memories. So I think people want to argue just to argue sometimes.
I mean, that's definitely a factor. People definitely want to argue just to argue.
It's so sad.
It just, to me, was like, to me, it was just very strange that this could cause controversy.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Like I wasn't like, hey, this ballpark sucks.
Right.
Like nobody should go to
Yeah.
X ballpark. And then those fans would be like, you suck.
And you would expect that.
You'd expect that because
For sure.
I'm starting a fire.
Yep.
But I wasn't starting a fire. I was literally like, does anybody have this super cool thing in this very niche group of ballpark chasers?
And can we
where you would
talk
think
about
actually somebody would have it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very strange.
Wow.
Yeah, blew my mind.
That's interesting.
But that's just a very
like
super recent example of how like it doesn't take
to trigger
much
people
or anything to just find the people who want to be loud.
Yes.
You know,
and you know what? It's only online. If you confronted them, they would probably say nothing at all.
I guarantee you that dude would not be like, why do you need to take why are you doing that? Idiot. He would never.
No.
Because he'd see the size of me and be like, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Like you're only doing that to hide behind
the screen.
Yeah.
A lot of people hide behind the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's
cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying is a real thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in all shapes and sizes too.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, things have happened to me that have really affected my mental health based on somebody's comment on a picture on Facebook.
I know.
And I'm like, you don't even know me enough to say that about me under that picture.
Yeah.
To the point where like, what's the goal here?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Because like, if you said that to me in person, I would have smacked you.
Yeah.
So like, what's up?
To that point, you know, like I said, I'm not in residential real estate anymore. Anything that comes to me, I pass it on to people. But I do work with other residential brokers. We do referrals, right? And I work with one in Raleigh, and we have referred business to each other, right? He recently listed this house. I want to say Holly Springs. I think it's in Holly Springs. Beautiful house. $1.6 million. It is gorgeous. And all I said, well, can I share it? He said, absolutely. And I didn't have like a link to the listing or anything like that. I just shared the photo.
Okay.
And I shared it in like a Facebook group of other, you know, maybe moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, or, you know, something like that. And I felt like if anybody was really interested in that house, they would reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, let me get more details on this, right? Fair enough. But I post it, and all the residential brokers are in there like, are you going to put like how many bedrooms and baths it has? What about the list price? Is it in, you know, this neighborhood? What neighborhood is that in? So I'm just like, I believe it's in this neighborhood. And they're like, well, it's not, you know, again, it's not my listing. I'm just trying to help somebody out because it's a beautiful house. And guess what? I found it on Zillow without having the address myself. I found it on Zillow. And you could do that too, instead of being so rude about the comments. But if you really had a buyer for it, you would have reached out to me.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's all, they just like came at me because I didn't list all the details. I'm like, hey, guys, it's not my listing. I was just trying to post something pretty.
Yeah. I've caught myself, you know, between you and me and all these listeners, I should have just not been scrolling anyway, because like I should do something better with that time in my life. But we probably all have that realization every once in a while. But I have caught myself scrolling and seen something, what it was is so unrelevant that I can't even remember.
Right.
And I've literally like typed out a response.
Yeah.
And it would have added fire.
Yes.
And then I've been like, wait a minute.
Yep.
Why? And I've caught myself like
that. Before
I hit the post, and I'm like, why don't I just say nothing?
Yep.
And keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling.
Because this is not like I'm getting like 3 seconds of anger over something somebody said that I don't even know that person. I don't even know who they're talking about. Whatever, this, that, and the third.
Right.
I think I'm right based on my info, but my info could be a little off.
Right.
Like, you know, and then there's other times when I can't help myself.
Right.
Like my buddy Jay, if you're listening, you know I love you already. But like he posted something like, "Hey, look at the Newburgh Beacon Bridge. It was opened in this year, and it was the first bridge across the Hudson." And I was like, "No, it wasn't." And I wrote back after Googling for 1 second. I wrote back, By the way,
Yeah.
it's actually 40 years older than you just said, and the first bridge was this bridge. So like,
Yeah.
FYI,
Yeah.
probably shouldn't just randomly. And he just wrote back like, "LOL, I just loved the picture, didn't even really care." And I was like, see, you.
I love that.
I was like, you started fire and you didn't even realize what you were doing, and and like. You know, and then I brought the smoke thinking he was like trying to be cute and smart. And he was like, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
I was like,
That's a great
this
response.
is a great picture. And I was like, okay. Like,
carry on.
Laughing emoji, see you next week or whatever. Yeah. But like that was real life. That happened for no reason.
I know.
I let that occupy my brain
for 10 minutes.
For no reason at all.
I know.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. And for you and I, it's a necessary evil. You can't really not be on the media
to capture somebody's attention. 6.
Right, but you also you can't be a successful commercial realtor without a Facebook profile.
You can't.
It's not like I don't really believe I could be a successful contractor without the internet presence, because there are tons now, especially now that I've taken it more seriously. I get tons of calls who are like, "Yeah, I just Googled, you came up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
See, yeah, that's
I didn't
great.
put a lot into my Google thing, but how can I help you?
That's great. So what I've started doing, I'm on Instagram, Sheryl Vazquez Broker. And since I specialize in restaurants and I'm in Durham, I go into Durham restaurants or Durham businesses even and film it. What service did I get there? Look at this cocktail. Look at my nails.
Is that not how I found you?
No. We met at the
we met at that Raleigh.
Expo.
Yeah. And we looked at each other like, why doesn't Durham have one?
Yeah, because I'm with the Durham Chamber of Commerce.
And you're on the Chamber of Commerce. And I was like, well, you're the person to fix that.
Yeah. You're like, why aren't they doing this in Durham? I was like, oh, okay, you're in Durham too. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I've gone, they send us out emails.
Why aren't they doing it?
Yeah, I don't know. They send us emails like, this is what's going on at the chamber this week, and so I kind of go through those and I'm like, we really aren't doing anything like that.
For listeners, just to elaborate a tiny little bit, Raleigh or Wake County, or I don't actually know, was it Wake County Chamber of Commerce?
That was Raleigh.
That was Raleigh Chamber of Commerce, right? Which Raleigh's in Wake County, but it's all confusing. Anyway, the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce took over a church in Raleigh, and they had, 10 times 4? They had at least 45 businesses of all varieties, from a chiropractor to a lawyer to someone who ran an adult assisted living to State Farm to City Barbecue was out there giving away free cookies, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a free event. You walked in.
It was 2 hours.
At
lunchtime.
Yeah, and it was like, hey, they gave you a little card with all the businesses, and if you walked up to all the businesses and got them all to sign the thing, then you got free lunch from one of the 2 trucks. Like it was a great networking event. I ran out of cards, got a bunch of cards, got a bunch of free stuff. You weren't even one of the businesses, met you. Here we are.
Yeah.
Got free lunch, and I brought a business associate of mine. You met Candace.
Yes.
And she's also in Durham.
Yes.
We had a podcast scheduled that morning during that. And I was like, hey, I'll drive. What are your thoughts on doing that first, getting free lunch, and doing the podcast after?
Good.
And she was like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a great event.
Yeah. I thought so too.
Well put together.
Yeah.
The lady at the front, Raina,
Yeah.
she told me about it. She was a podcast guest.
Yeah. Everybody knows Raina.
She's, she's very bubbly and out there, and she's in so many different groups and stuff. She's like a networking guru.
She does a lot of these events. Mm-hmm.
And literally we're chatting by the food truck, and you're like, oh yeah, I do realty. Oh, cool. I'm a contractor. Let's talk, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, I'm at the Durham Chamber of Commerce. And I'm like, why is this exact event not happening along the outfield wall of the old Durham baseball park?
Yeah.
Where they already do events where they let food trucks on the field or play that movie on the screen in the outfield. Mm-hmm. It's like the infrastructure is already there. Yeah. I know for a fact that you'd have to fight off the food trucks that want to be there.
Oh, for sure.
It just seems like a no-brainer.
I know.
And I don't know of any event like that.
And so
in
that's
Durham.
why before I reached out to anybody at the chamber and say like, hey, what are we doing? Why don't we do this? I just wanted to see if like, do they actually not have anything like that? I'm like, no, they don't. They haven't. If they
would have been
they
at
haven't.
it.
Yeah, they haven't recently.
Yeah.
So because I do get those emails like, this is what's going on this week, and it's never that.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
like,
funny that you should say that because I also, I had a business meeting that day, and he is with Bank of America, and we were going to discuss like small business funding and that sort of thing. We had met at a Durham chamber event. And we were, you know, it needed to be rescheduled or whatever. So we came across this day and I was like, God, I hate to reschedule this again with him, but I really want to go to that business expo. So I emailed him and I was like, can we just go to the business expo? I mean, it can be a twofer, you know, so I can talk to you about business and we can meet other businesses, you know? So he was cool with it. We never saw each other.
Yeah, I've left Candace when we walked in, and I saw her when we went to get lunch.
It's crazy.
It was the
like
same exact thing.
It's one room. It was one room.
Yeah.
And later I emailed him and I was like, "Hey, sorry, did you go?" He's like, "Yeah, I was there. I brought a friend." He brought a friend of his, and I was like, "I can't believe I missed you." But I ran into so many people that I know, you know. So I just thought it was a great like quick little 2-hour event where you're just kind of networking really quickly.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, free networking event
Yeah.
with lunch.
Yeah.
What are we even doing here?
I know.
Hello. Like,
sign me up all day.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, you know, it just seems like a huge missed opportunity.
I agree.
You know, because the networking events that are popping up seem to be sprouting up like weeds, and I can't seem to find quality Durham events. The only Durham event that I have found is Durham Rockstar Connect at Nomu.
Yeah.
And it is not quality anymore. Like I've gone 4 times and it's the same 8 people.
Oh, is it?
And
okay.
it's like, cool, you all are awesome,
Yeah.
except for one of you who I really don't like. And I don't need your cards anymore. Like, not to be mean or anything, but like, I don't need to run into you once a month. When I need your service, I have you saved in my phone and I'll text you. But it's just like,
yeah,
it
I'm
can
trying
be...
to bring more stuff to Durham myself because I do a lot in Raleigh. I do a lot in Charlotte. There's something called CCC. Have you heard of that?
I don't pay attention to Charlotte. It's just too far for me.
Well, we just opened a chapter in Raleigh, and I don't know if they're going to do one in Durham. So the CCC started in Atlanta. It's contractors, closers, and connections.
Oh, okay.
And it's a group of just, you know, like-minded professionals. And we host event. Actually, the Charlotte one is coming up next Thursday, and that's going to be at the new Piedmont Gas Company.
There's a coffee with contractors in the area that is
I saw that
kind
too.
of a similar thing. I haven't been to it because it's always at a time when I have something booked, and it's like I can't rearrange that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that would be cool to attend too. Yeah. But I think like we're going to have one in Raleigh soon. We had one already at the Ironworks.
Okay.
That new place. And we'll have another one, but I don't know where it's going to be. But it's always at a different location. All these professionals come together. It's a really good turnout. So I'll let you know when that happens.
Please.
Yeah, but
put me on the top of the list of people you text when that gets established. And on the flip side, you know, would love to have you. Me and 2 friends are starting a Durham business networking.
Love it.
Event.
Okay. One
of the people who's gonna kind of partner with me, Glenn Kantz, who does my embroidery stuff. He has a friend who literally started and owns a spot on 9th Street. Okay. And he was like, yeah, you could come take it one Monday or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And we were like, really? He's like, yeah, totally. Like, come do one Monday a month or whatever. And we were like, okay, we have a spot. Right. What more do we need?
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So it's like my buddy Tom, we were like, look, you are a financial person, so you can't promote your company on Facebook. So you're in charge of the DBN or whatever the hell we called it, Facebook thing. He made a quick logo and he was like, okay, cool. It's like, sweet. We need to like officially start next month or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean
let me know how I can help.
show up and bring anybody who's a small business owner. I mean, that's
Well,
literally it.
So if you have any marketing
Yeah.
that you're doing, I'm happy to share it with my network.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will, I probably after this, now that I think about it, it's fresh on the brain. I'll reach out to Tom and just be like, hey, where are we with that?
On that? Yeah.
Because it's just one of those things where it's like Glenn and I, we've been bringing each other to networking events.
Yeah.
And we've been having fun, but we're realizing that like the Rockstar Nomu one really is saved by Nomu.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't love to eat there,
I know.
I wouldn't roll the dice.
I would love to live there. That space is so beautiful.
It's a beautiful spot and their food is incredible.
Yeah.
So like I go there and the networking event sucks after an hour and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's fine. I'm here for dinner.
Right.
Let's get this food's great. It was worth it.
Yeah.
Let me get my cortado.
Yeah.
And because they have that little coffee bar on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
So, but like, I really would love to get another event
Yeah.
where we could try to attract, I don't even want to say different people. I just want to, more people, just more small business owners who, just simply trying to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm with it.
I think it could be, I think it would benefit.
Yeah, totally. That's one of my goals for the new year is to get in front of more small business owners and actually create workshops so I can talk about my exit planning and the business brokerage and figure out how I can help them.
You can have me as a speaker of how not to own a business that's sellable.
Exactly.
It'd be like, if you want to sell it, don't do this.
Don't do this. Yeah.
And here's Corbett. Yeah.
Say something nice, Corbett.
Yeah. Say something nice into the camera.
Right.
Something nice into the camera. Okay. So real quick, or not real quick for that matter, what would be the easiest ways for people to get in touch with you if they need, somebody to market their commercial space, or they're looking for a commercial space, or they want to sell their business?
Yeah. So they could go to my website is csgcapitals.com. They could email me, Shery, SHERI.Vazquez. It's VAZQUEZ @csgcapitals.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Threads, X.
What's Threads?
Threads is the new, okay. Threads is like Twitter and Instagram had a baby. If you can even imagine that.
Twitter and Instagram. That's Facebook.
It's,
I don't know. To me, you just described Facebook.
kind of.
I don't know
It's
the difference.
just another, you know. So I got on there, and I don't really get on there a lot. Like when Clubhouse came out, I was on Clubhouse, and I was hosting, rooms like this where I would talk about what I'm doing. And it's a little discouraging when you're getting like 2 people show up or, but as long as they're recorded and somebody can hear it after the fact, that's good.
Right.
And then I would go into like commercial real estate rooms, and that was always informative. And then they changed their hour that they were doing that. And then a lot of people kind of fell off because they couldn't make that time. And then they just stopped it altogether. So my luster for that kind of wore out with the Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse?
Never heard of it.
Okay.
Nope. I am not.
Yeah. So, there's all these things that come out, and I'm like, sure, I'll try that just for the exposure. And then I'm like, not, like TikTok. I'm not really on that.
I heard somebody on a podcast read the user agreement for TikTok out loud, and I was like, never, ever will I let that on my device.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
I'm probably either incorrect or paraphrasing or possibly both, but it was something along the lines of like, once you have TikTok on one device, then you like bring it home and your device is hooked up to the Wi-Fi. Now TikTok has access to everything.
Oh.
And like your router and like future stuff. And
Really?
I was like, cool. No.
Yeah.
Like not.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure Facebook and Instagram are doing all of that as well.
Right.
And it's probably owned by the same Chinese conglomerate
Right.
selling all of our data.
I know.
But at least in my head, it's different. And also, TikTok's for like young people who don't have any money to hire me. So I just have been like, that's not my jam.
That's true. So it's basically, it goes back to that 6-second time
Yeah.
time that you have to grab somebody's attention.
Yeah.
I don't have that. Like what I do is going to take a little bit more time. So I do have TikTok, but it's more like these are the grandkids and these are my cats. And it's just like fun stuff that doesn't really matter. But now that you said that, I might delete it altogether.
I mean, I've had people be like, oh, so what's your TikTok? And I'm like, I have an Instagram. I have a Facebook.
Yeah.
There's even a Twitter account, which is just a bunch of links to Spotify for my podcast.
Yeah.
And I have a Nextdoor because that's like an actual homeowners need somebody to do something.
Right. There's a lot of bitching that goes on there.
Yeah, I skip all the bitching.
Oh my gosh,
I just
you
post,
have to.
I don't even really post that much. I'm just like listed on Nextdoor. And occasionally I get somebody who's like, hey, I found you on Nextdoor because Marianne. And I'm like, Marianne's the best. How can I help you? Yeah. And while I'm listing it out, 845-489-6057, Corb at WSDG, if you need CRS contracting in the Triangle or want to come on the podcast, please reach out. We'd love to have you, anybody on, honestly. So we talked about the commercial side. We talked about buying businesses. You start about 5 years before
with the
sale,
exit planning.
With the exit planning.
Yeah, some people come to me and they just want to sell their business and they're ready to go. And
you can do that.
I'm just a business broker. Yep.
Oh, okay. So So I guess the business broker and the exit planning, even though they overlap in the Venn diagram, are very different.
Yeah. All of it overlaps, but I can, utilize them individually as well.
Right. Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So do you own a home?
I do not.
You do not own a home.
No.
Okay. So
I rent.
I can't ask you about projects you've done on your home then. Okay.
Well, you can. I do projects around my rental home anyway.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Even though you're building value for someone else.
So this is a funny thing. So I just moved outside the city limits maybe like 5 months ago. So I'm now in the county.
Okay.
Right. But I did live right in downtown Durham. And my daughter and I lived in a duplex. And it's an old, like 1925 build, but it had character, right? And when I saw that space, I was like, oh God, these walls are like mustard yellow. Like I can't live here. But the idea of like, if you live here next door with the grandkids and I lived over here, this is a perfect setup, right? So I was like, all right, we got both sides. And I went in there. Again, this is at the beginning of COVID. So I had nothing but time, right? I painted every wall in there like this color, gray. Painted every wall. I painted the bathroom vanity, changed out the hardware on it, put up a medicine cabinet. I put up shelving in the laundry area, changed out the faucet on the kitchen sink. I mean, the thing was, if I'm going to live there, I want to be comfortable in my space. So it was just little minor things, but I didn't ask for permission. They're not going to,
No, but like when you leave,
about it.
You can't
So
take
here's
that
the thing.
faucet.
Right. I left it. But they said, hey, you have 60 days to move. You guys have been great tenants. But now the landlord, the owner of the house is going to tear it down and rebuild. So we had to move. And so, but we were there for like 3 years.
Did you take the handles with you?
No.
Oh.
No, I took the medicine cabinet, obviously, but I was like, they were like a couple bucks at Home Depot, whatever. That was more like, it's a little therapeutic for me, to go in there and just paint walls is like, this is kind of nice and quiet and I can put on music if I want to or not.
Well, the painting's different. That doesn't add value, but like, swap, you spent real money on a faucet and then real time and energy or paid a plumber to swap it. And like, that money got lit on fire and you never get it back.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it for 3 years. Yeah. So it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's fine. You don't sit here with regrets, but like for listeners, that's insane.
Oh, okay.
Like you spent a lot of money on a rental that you got nothing out of.
Yes.
Like that would be, like if I was, I have 10 houses I rent.
Yes.
And like, if I walked in one day and all the handles in the kitchen were different, that would be a huge problem.
Yes.
Because I would be like, one, those were not cheap handles.
Yeah.
Two, the new holes didn't match up. Now there's holes.
Right.
3, you didn't ask for permission.
Right.
4, where the F are my handles?
Right.
Right. And 5, put that shit back.
Right. Right.
Like, what do you like?
And probably
it's a very
to your,
different situation.
Things like your house, I wouldn't need to do stuff like that.
That's
know what I'm saying?
very fair.
Yeah.
It's not a 1920s with 1920s fixtures. That's
right.
that's true. That's super true. But it just like, it would, painting is not insane. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
Like, I know tons of people who move into an apartment and they do an accent wall day one.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I would love a dark navy blue wall behind the TV that we're going to mount on the wall.
You're definitely not supposed to do it.
I mean, I don't know if you're not supposed to do it, but I know that like that's not a big deal.
Right.
Because like they got to paint when you move out anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
And okay, big deal.
Yeah.
But like a fixture,
right.
like I had a tenant who was like, look, I really need a different shower head.
Yeah.
I need one that has a thing that pops out. I'm bigger than most people.
Oh, I do that everywhere I move.
I need blah blah blah. And I was like, sorry, like you gotta have my plumber do it. And they were like, I can't afford to have your plumber, but I've done this like 6 houses in a row. I'm gonna use pipe tape, blah blah. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I was like, fine. Put the old one in a drawer.
Yeah.
And when you
Put it
move,
back,
I expect you to swap it.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah.
And they were like, appreciate the leniency.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was like a special circumstance, and they asked, and it was like, a hygiene thing. But, big changes are definitely like, it's a waste of the money of the tenant.
Yeah.
Because you don't own it.
Right.
You're adding value to a landlord's property. So from that perspective, it's crazy.
It's true. But it's not like I dropped walls or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
or even spent that much money on some handles. But
it was like wire shelving that went up in the you know what I mean?
There's different life moments and budgets for everybody.
Yeah.
But from a general perspective, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, let me just repair some stuff the landlord should do on my dollar. Like, whoa, no. Yeah. Like, have you seen the movie? Have you seen the show? And I know you're not big into shows from our earlier conversation, but have you seen the show Shameless?
I feel like I've heard of it.
It was a pretty famous show that ran for like 7 seasons on Showtime about this like crazy poor criminal-esque kind of alcoholic-esque family in Chicago.
Okay.
Hence they're shameless, hence the term. But,
Was it funny?
It's hysterical.
Okay.
Absolutely hysterical.
Oh,
like
I want to see that then.
Super funny. Yeah. William H. Macy's
like
the father.
Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So Arrested Development, but like real raunchy with curse words and more crime.
Right.
Yeah. And like lower blue collar crime, not the white collar crime of Arrested Development where like the father's a crook, but that's a different level of crook.
Right.
Yeah. This is like, this dude, like his meat truck died, so we rob it while he went to go get help.
Okay.
And, like, we take all the meat and then they sell it like behind the scenes. Yeah. Anyway, the oldest son, grows up this much and meets a gal, a lady, whatever. They have a baby and they're renting a house. And flash to the next season, he's like on his own dollar fixing the house.
Huh.
And it's a rental. But I mean like tile backsplash.
Yeah.
Replacing windows.
No. Yeah.
Like doing like legit work.
Right.
And my realtor Stacy, shout out to Stacy, we would text about this and be like, did you see the new Shameless? Right? We were really into it.
Oh my God.
And I called her one day and I was like, what is Lip doing? He doesn't own the house.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? What do I mean? You're a realtor?
Yeah.
He's putting in new windows. She was like, oh yeah. I was like, because it's not like that big of a thing.
No.
But in my brain, my brain immediately went to like, wait a minute, lip.
Yeah.
No one's going to pay you for that.
Right.
No one's going to pay you for that.
No.
And sure enough, episode 5, his friend who was leasing it to him off the books is like, thanks for the new windows.
Right.
We're now going to kick you out and rent this for $1,000 more a month.
Because we can.
Because we can.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
like, I bet you weren't expecting that. And he like tries to reason with him and talk to him and all this bullshit. And it does not work out.
So back when I lived in Boston, I knew somebody who was fixing up his rental property, but he was trying to do it to save on the rent or get a little bit off the rent, you know, and the landlord would be like, I mean, yeah, here and there, but really just pay me the rent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that was working out for
That's
him,
a
but he
very
told
different
me-
conversation, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Like my ex-brother-in-law built a dope deck behind the house that him and my sister were renting when they were married.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him specifically, I was like, who built this? He was like, I built it. And I was like confused. I was like, but you built a deck. You don't own this house. He was like, well, the landlord paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
Like the landlord bought all the materials.
Right.
And I was like, I'll build it because you get more value and we get to use it. And then when we leave,
and
there's the
they
deck.
probably had that conversation before he built it.
100%.
Right. This was not the case
Yeah.
for this one.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to fix this. And then I'm going to ask him if he can just take it off the rent. I was like, why are you doing that?
That's not a smart move.
It's not because
It's not a smart move.
what if
Because
the
they could just say no.
says no?
Yeah.
Right.
It'd just be like, you
like,
didn't have
why-
to fix that.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Why didn't you text me?
Right.
Yeah. Like I was renting a spot in California, and granted, this was all I spoke to everybody beforehand.
Yeah.
But it was just easier for me to give $50 to the fridge repair guy.
Yeah.
And me pay $50 less rent that month. But it was agreed upon.
Right.
It was like, hey,
Yeah.
can you just take care of it? Because like the landlord lives in another state and like whatever. And I was like, yes, sure.
Right.
Like here, it's $50. He was like,
Right.
cool. I can't fix it. Here's your receipt for $50. And then I was like, should I buy us a fridge on Craigslist for $400?
Right,
and then
right.
they were like, yes, actually, that's exactly what we should do. And I was like, cool. Take $450 off the rent, and it was not a big deal.
Right,
but it was
right.
there was a conversation.
Yeah.
I would have never
I know.
just bought a fridge
Yeah.
and then been like, this is either mine or like that's not how that works.
Right.
But you know, that's why I said it's a little insane to start doing stuff to your
for sure.
rental.
Yeah.
Other than I'd love an accent wall.
Yeah.
Or this shower head screws on and I can take it with me when we leave.
To be fair,
Yeah.
the faucet in the kitchen was like sunk. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't, I'm telling you, it's a 1925 house. So it was like.
Was there running water in 1925?
So it
You're
was
like, it
not
was
even,
an original water heater
I
from
know,
1925.
Like I couldn't even use the faucet in there. And I was like, really, this is what we're going? And I will call the landlord and say, hey, bro, this needs to be fixed, but I don't do it often, you know? So I'll just try to like, if I can fix something myself, or I want little cute knobs on the damn drawers or whatever, I'll do that. But it's not, I don't do that everywhere I move, you know? And if I'm going to be in this like shitty house, I want to be comfortable, you know? So that's basically what it was. Again, like I'm not replacing appliances or, you know, retiling the floors or anything like that. But it was like, this is doable, you know, this is kind of cool.
And it could be any number of reasons, but why don't you own a home? I mean, as someone in real estate,
right.
I would think that would be, you know, more than most how good that is to build generational wealth.
I know.
And so
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, I am getting there.
Is it mostly just the financial to save for that down payment?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know, but a lot of listeners might not know that like it's still about 15 to 20% for a down payment.
Yeah.
Unless you are a veteran and you can really activate some programs where there's some veteran assisting programs and state employees credit union programs.
Oh, absolutely. Credit unions are a really good way to go.
Because you could get that down payment to like 3 to 5%.
For sure.
Yeah.
And depending on the loan, like even a conventional loan, you could pretty much get down. There are also new loan products that are out that are 100% financing. You know,
so I don't know if I knew about that. 100% financing. So just no down payment.
Right.
What about like closing costs?
Yeah, I think that's minimal, or you know that you can ask for the seller to help you with that, or, you know, whatever that looks like.
Who's running these kind of programs?
I know that Movement Mortgage has. I've spoken to my guy at Movement Mortgage, and he said that he has that.
It's got to be an insane interest rate. Like
That's
somebody's got to make
gotta
something,
be, right?
Like no one's doing that because they're nice,
Right, I know.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would have to dig a little bit more into it,
Yeah.
but there are those programs out there.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, you know, it's good to know. It's a cute little Willy Bear.
he's like staring at me from the other room.
He's like, you guys need
He's
to
like,
wrap up so he
"Hey."
can let me out. Yeah. I mean, those programs are obviously good, and exploring them should happen.
Yes.
But, you know, if it sounds too good to be true, why does it sound too good to be true? Like
Right.
there's, you know, it's like when a finance guy calls me and is like, we want to do this with this money. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I know. I bet you do
Yeah,
want to do
yeah,
that with my
yeah.
money, but that's not the best thing for me.
Right.
That's just good for you.
Right.
Like,
right.
why, you know, and then you start asking why they want to do that strategy,
Yeah.
and you realize that, you know, they pad themselves with some nice fees, or they're
Mm-hmm.
going to sell that later in 4 years when you're still locked in for 6 years, or
But you
whatever.
also wonder like why they're not promoting it more, right?
Probably because it doesn't benefit them as much.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's
I mean,
that too.
I mean, I have one mortgage. I've refinanced once.
Yeah.
All through, like, if we're being honest, a bank that wouldn't really have spoken to me had it not been for the family wealth that has been with that bank for 3 generations. We've been
Right.
like using the same bank that my grandfather started with before I was
Yeah.
born.
Okay.
So that
And
relationship,
they're still around. Good.
yeah, that relationship was worth a lot, and they
Yes.
made it work. But
Yeah.
like, had I just been John Doe with no like relationship with anybody, they probably would have been like, we can't make this work because
Yeah.
you just don't have the numbers.
Right.
And in fact, for the first mortgage, not the refinance, but the first mortgage, my parents had to co-sign
Yeah.
because I was fresh out of college with no work history.
Right. Right.
They were like, well, we need like 6 years of tax records. I was like, I don't have that.
I know.
You want 6 years of taxes that say I've been in college? It's not going to help you.
It's
Yeah.
not going to help.
Not going to help at all. So my parents were like, we're not going to give you any money. I was like, I actually don't want any money. I can afford it.
Yeah.
Like that part's actually the easiest part of this
Yeah.
equation. I just need your 50 plus years of being a successful adult on
Yeah,
paper.
I know, right?
To co-sign for this thing. And when I refied, I didn't need them anymore because I
That's
had,
good.
you know, been enough years and
Yeah.
all this. And I was like, look, my auto payments have never missed.
Yeah.
You guys like me. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we like you. I
Yeah.
was like, cool, let's refi this.
Yep.
So that worked out nicely, but you know, even me right there, just assuming that people have nice parents that would co-sign. That's not the case.
Nope.
Plenty of parents who are like, I will never do that.
Yeah.
Love my offspring, would never trust them with that.
Right. Right.
That's like a legit conversation.
It is.
My good friend Ernie told me with his parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I've met your parents. They won't. He's like, dude, I know. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
I think eventually his mom came around, but like still, it was tough.
And
you
for
know.
a while there, I don't know if it's changed, but a lot of people who have a lot of student loan debt, they weren't giving mortgages to those folks.
Man, student loan is a whole nother thing. I don't even know if it's true, but I heard on, you know, I forget where I heard it, but that's irrelevant. But I heard like last week that like when you go bankrupt, that doesn't absolve you of your student loan.
Oh, really?
Is that true?
I don't know. And I heard that paying them off was put on hold because of COVID.
That I know is true.
And then they're going to start,
Yeah.
like, now you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then I also heard that, like, I don't know if it happened, but apparently last week Biden said, or whoever's talking for Biden, because
Right.
that dude can't speak anymore, just was saying that they're gonna like just let go of like $9 billion worth of debt. And I was like, how do you decide who's like what students are on the list?
I don't know if they're going to follow through with that.
I'm sure they're not.
yeah,
I'm sure that's just like what they put out there because it's now election time.
The government does. Yeah, probably.
No,
'cause
they
it's
just
election
they
time.
just threw that out there because it's
Totally.
election time
Yep.
and the group of people who are pretending that Biden is still
capable,
sound mentally, which I'm not a political person, but that dude's gone.
Right.
Like he's just gone.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like I would probably still align with the Democratic Party, but that dude's gone.
Yeah.
Like he's not making decisions.
Right.
To quote a comedian I love, every time he finishes a speech, he just turns into a Roomba. He just starts like, he goes one direction and he holds up a pen and he goes another direction. It's like, that dude's gone. Like it's crazy that we just pretend he's not gone. But like, you know, that's a whole nother conversation we can jump into.
For sure.
But I'm pretty sure that something like that is said by his, you know, campaign because it's now an election year.
Yeah.
How there isn't some like, you must pass this medical qualifying thing to be good enough to be the runner of the country, I don't know. Again, that's a whole nother conversation. Sure. I'm pretty happy with my non-political information.
Same. Yep.
I have had people try to get me into that world, and they're just like, you got to be informed. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be informed of this? Because you are just stressed about this all the time.
So I don't watch news. I mean, I know some people.
You say it proudly.
It.
I agree with you proudly. Yeah. And there are plenty of people who call both of us dumb because we don't watch the news.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, you know, my parents, we love each other. We're a good family. Their company has sponsored this podcast. We've worked together. We've built 10 houses. Nice. But like when I go over to their house for breakfast, it's CNN blaring really loud. And it's just CNN. This. Crisis here, crisis there, crisis here, crisis there. You need to buy this or you're going to die.
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, that's a news channel run by a company I don't know, owned by a company none of us know, that has a board of directors that is trying to make money.
Yeah.
So it's not even that many steps where you get to, you think it's news, it's entertainment to try to make money.
Yeah.
The difference between CNN and Fox is absolutely nothing.
Right.
You might think you're getting different information, but really, when you boil away the crap, you're getting stress about this, panic about this, worry about this.
Yeah, it's what they want you to hear.
And it's what they want you to hear. Like, this is an opinion I have. I do not have the facts to like back up what I just said, other than the anecdotal real life experience of me like going over to people's houses that watch the news regularly.
Yeah.
And they're stressed about stuff in other countries or stressed about stuff at the geopolitical level that just simply doesn't, like, yes, it affects us trickle down, but it's not anything we could change or anything we should really focus on. You know, I remember once my dad was like, you don't get it. This affects that, which affects this, which makes 2x4s more expensive. And I was like, guess what? I still need to go buy the 2x4 and I'm still going to expense the more expensive 2x4 to the client who wants the deck. So like, does it really matter? Or do I just have to adjust the price? Like it, you know, and then he'd be like, well, what you don't understand is this means less people are going to do decks. And I'm like, that still doesn't explain why I should stress about it and pay attention to just what CNN is telling me.
Right.
And so like, you know, I've had that opinion for a lot of years.
Me too.
My grandfather very much is like, you need to be more informed. You need to watch more news. You need to read more newspapers. This, that, and the third. He's gone now, so I don't really have it. My dad and mom kind of took up the mantle of like, you should watch more news.
Yeah.
And I just like, I go over and I'm like, you're just watching stress. You're watching the stress network. Like, you know, there's a difference between staring at the same repeat footage and the same repeat 5 facts about the war in Ukraine.
For sure.
And just knowing there's a war in Ukraine.
And it's not like I have my head in the sand, you know. I hear about stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
But also, like, what can you do about the war in Ukraine?
Right.
I can't do anything.
I hear about it, which is basically all you want me to know, right? You want me to know and be informed. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, what I'm asking you right now, what could you do about the
Right.
war in Ukraine? I don't even know.
Right.
Somebody could say, send money to someone somewhere. Okay, cool. Well, we're a nation in debt and we shit out how many millions of dollars, billions of dollars to Ukraine? Where did that money come from?
Right.
Why is it not fixing the potholes in downtown Durham?
Right.
Like that's where my mind goes.
Right.
And guess what? I have no control over that.
Right.
I never will have control over that. And the people who control that don't know my name. They just know that I'm a tax-paying Social Security number. That's all they care about.
Yeah, for sure. Along those lines, I don't know if you know, but Durham and other, Wake County and stuff like that, they receive funding. And I guess because I'm with the chamber and go to these economic development meetings and stuff like that, they say, oh, we received all this funding and this is what it's going to go to, right? And I guess a couple weeks ago, did you hear that
Assume I didn't.
Okay. Are you in the county or the city?
City.
You're in the city. So the city trash workers were not picking up the trash
Oh,
for
I
a couple
did.
of weeks.
I did notice that.
Right?
Yeah. It was like 3 weeks ago.
On strike.
Yeah.
And they weren't getting paid enough or whatever. So who's allotting that? Why aren't we paying them more to do those things, right? Then I received an email, and I can't even tell you if it was like Durham.gov or the park and play things that, I sign up for. But it says, we've allotted X amount of dollars to plant trees in all of these different areas. And it just kind of made me laugh for a second and then kind of like pissed me off a little bit because you're tearing down all these trees to build new developments, first of all. And then the money that we get, you're planting trees. I'm not against trees. I love trees. I'm not against planting trees. But when there's bigger fish to fry here, what are we doing? I don't know. It just it was one of those head scratchers. It's like, oh, okay, who do I talk to about this? Like,
right.
Who made that decision?
Yeah. And then there's also, this is an opinion that I'm piggybacking before anybody thinks I'm some like revolutionary person. But there's also now, as we sit, too much. There's just too much information.
Yeah.
Like, how could any single human be expected to be able to consume everything to the point where you're educated to talk educated about the topic? Like, you would need weeks and weeks of research to figure out, or to even just like to understand what's happening in Ukraine, to have a conversation about trying to like fix it. But guess what? You'd have to put somehow at the same time the same amount of weeks into researching why those developments were approved in forests that we want to keep. Yeah. And then the solution to do this tree planting thing. If all of this money is gifted by the state, why does it go to trees and not the garbage people? Like, it's like, okay, all of a sudden you're put in an impossible position of like, what do I choose to pay attention to?
Right.
What do I have the bandwidth to even understand?
Right.
Like, I'll be very clear. You could explain what's going on in Ukraine and why this person hates Putin and why Putin wants it, or why we think. I don't know anybody actually knows. Yeah. But like, I'm probably too dumb. Like, I'm not a dumb guy, but you know what I mean? I'm just not, that's not my zone.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the same exact thing of like, give me 10 minutes to talk about deck bolt sizing and your eyes will gloss over of like, this is not is it going to fall or not?
Right.
Like, so, it's like,
it's where you choose to place your attention.
Right. And then, all of us, let's not forget, you still have to make your food and go to the gym and run your company, and you have a child and I have a dog and we're going, I'm going on a vacation or I'm going camping so it's like, okay, do you want to take the last bit of free bandwidth you have and just watch depressing news?
Right.
If you're me, I want to watch Star Wars shows. That's just more fun.
Yes.
It's less depressing.
Yeah.
And it affects me the same amount, if we're being honest. Right. I talk to people about this guy Connor wants my business real bad to be my financial advisor. His route is let's talk about shows because it gets me talking.
Okay.
But like we really talk about them. I'll be like, oh, did you catch the new app? Oh man, with the this and the that and like 20 minutes will go by and then I'll be like, hey, did you look at that email? I'll be like, I haven't gotten to it. Be like, no worries. Like let me know.
Yeah.
But like that guess what we don't do? Spend 20 minutes talking about what we watched on the news because this shit's just depressing.
Right. And do you think that's because we're a younger generation? Like it feels like we get our news elsewhere. And the older generation is like news all day long. Like we've got to watch the news and stay informed.
I think, first of all, I love that question.
Thank you.
I think it's a combination. I think, in my opinion, our generation, like my parents' generation, didn't have Facebook.
Right.
So, like, good or bad, in your opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. What you're not entitled to is anybody giving a shit about your opinion. In my opinion, people my age and younger, that's where we get the news.
Right.
Like as a kid, I pretty much exclusively got news from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
I love The Daily Show.
Most people do.
Yeah.
And at least in my age group, that actually was like, oh, there's some funny shit, but that's some news.
Yeah.
And I remember
his little take on it.
Yeah, and I remember Jon Stewart acknowledging this on an interview. He was like, "Yeah, we've kind of adjusted. We took like 10% of the jokes down. We put 10% more important stuff because we realize we're kind of a news station."
Yeah.
When my parents were growing up, there was 2 to 3 news channels, and it was like it.
Yeah.
There even TV running 24 hours a day is a relatively new thing. Like when the first TVs were invented, at 10 o'clock it was static. There was nothing on the TV. Whereas now, I don't have cable, but like if you have a direct TV package, it's like 1,200 channels or whatever. And how could you watch it all? So. I think it's a combination of the tech exploded.
Yes.
And I think everyone will agree with that because that's across the board. That's not just in the news world. I mean, look at the construction world.
Yeah.
Tech exploded.
Yeah.
Construction was male dominated, I think, because it took male muscle.
Yeah.
Now your gender is irrelevant on how well you're trained to operate a forklift or a crane. That requires wrists, a joystick.
Right.
Get trained, figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care what your gender is. Be the most qualified.
Right.
That was not a thing. You needed the strongest dudes to pick up the big logs and get them sawn up. Like that was just the way it worked.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
Right.
So you got a huge technology situation.
Yeah.
And then I think for the good or the bad, there's just enough examples where your news channel has been discredited.
Oh yeah.
For me, it was really brought to light with the COVID ivermectin Joe Rogan thing.
Yes.
I am a little bit of a fan of Joe Rogan, but I'm a stand-up comedian fan.
Yeah, me too.
I don't pay attention to him when he has like a journalist on. I don't view him as the rule of life.
Right.
He's a funny stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I liked Fear Factor.
Yeah.
When he has 4 other comedians on and they take mushrooms and get drunk, it's funny.
It's funny.
Like that's what's up.
Right,
it's funny.
Right.
He's not my news.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I'm listening to him every 3 or 4 days.
Right.
So I'm, when he's talking about something from a week ago, it's relevant.
Yeah.
So when I can physically see or hear, whatever, when I can physically hear him being like, so I didn't take the shot because of this, but I told my parents to because they're older. I told this person to because they're fat.
Right.
I didn't do it. I'm in abnormally good shape. I take an abnormally good amount of vitamins. I was like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And then he gets COVID and he's like, yeah, my doctor put me on monoclonal antibodies and ivermectin and I was good in 3 days.
Yeah.
And I hear that the day after he records it. and then the next day go to see my parents who have CNN blaring, and the headline is Joe Rogan is an anti-vaxxer taking horse deworming medication against doctor's orders. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
Whoa. Like, I literally just heard this dude in long form. Like, that's 5 lies in a row.
Yeah, right.
5 lies in a row. 5 lies in a row. And it's CNN. It's not Fox. I expect it on Fox. right? Like, if it was on Fox, I'd be like, it's Fox News.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're listening, I don't even care what your political side is.
Right.
I actually don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Just be respectful of other people. But like, that's just like 5 lies. And like, normally I watch CNN when I'm forced to with my parents, and I don't know the lies. This to me is just all baloney.
Yeah.
But that one, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Whoa, I actually know, because I just heard him say what he
did
took.
Your parents say to that?
They kind of like acknowledged it because I got like hype and aggressive and kind of like animated about it.
Oh, he's serious.
But then they definitely just like kept watching CNN and
sure.
view CNN as the end all be all to life's answers. That's yeah. But I do remember actually changing their minds about Dave Chappelle, which I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah.
Because if you're a stand-up comedian fan or
Love
just
Dave.
watch the news for that matter, there was no bigger story than Dave Chappelle. Sticks and Stones was the name of the special.
Yeah.
The trans community basically wanted him dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to assume you share my opinion of if you're being medically safe, I don't actually care if you're a trans person.
Right.
I think you shouldn't do it because it's probably masking something going on with your mental health, and this is an easier solution. That's an opinion, not a fact. Come at me if you want. I'm allowed my opinion. But my parents only see the fire on CNN.
Right.
And it happens to be the topic of conversation when I come over there. They have a house in Durham, so we see each other a lot.
Perfect.
And my dad's like, yeah, what's up with that? Like, I hear he's really screwing up. And I'm like, no, he's not. I was like, this is like NRA. 5 people are screaming.
Yeah.
The other people don't actually care.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I got an idea. Do you have an hour? Let's watch the special. And they were like, actually, we do. And I threw it on Netflix.
Yeah.
I threw on the special.
That's great research.
And I swear the credits rolled and my dad was like, what's the problem?
Right.
He was like, he didn't say anything bad.
Right.
He quote, unquote, and I love this quote, he held up a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, it's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He had the balls to hold up a mirror in the form of, in this particular special, of an actual beautiful love note of a story to a friend of his who passed away in the trans community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not controversial.
Right.
Just there's, whiny blue-haired punks who want to whine.
Yeah.
And then literally it took like that was a real life anecdotal moment where like they were blinded by shit on CNN, believed it, had not watched the special, and just assumed that CNN was correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we literally watched the special. They're dying laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So it's like, I don't even know what my point really is.
It's like, you could argue if you're going to get all of your news from CNN, then why not research certain things with other sources?
Well, then that adds to my answer about you asking me what changed from like my parents to us.
Yeah.
The news used to be trusted.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, and how it's delivered.
Once upon a time, Walter Cronkite or whatever, like was there a more trusted like voice? Like, this is the news. We are giving you the facts. We have, incredible journalists and they tracked this and this is the news.
Yeah.
Now
we don't know what's real.
We don't know what's real. The news is a 24-hour show.
Yeah.
That's another thing. News used to be less often.
Yeah.
So you had, as a news company, you had more stories to pick from. How do we fill the hour with the coolest stories?
Right.
that one's cool but hasn't been confirmed, pull it. That one's
Right.
been confirmed, put it in the front.
Right.
Now it's like
Put it all in there.
a board of directors says you can't have blank hour. Get something up there.
Right.
We're CNN. We need to and put it on the app and put it on the website and blah blah blah.
Well, someone said to me the other day, the CNN that we hear is just like America's CNN. It's not worldly.
100%.
And they said, have you ever heard world CNN?
It's
I was
very
like,
different.
I don't think that I have. And that's what they said. It's very different.
We had that talk before we were recording.
And we just did. We just spoke about that. And so I was like, you're the second person to mention that to me in the same week.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is something.
I mean, and another thing that just makes me, upset when people are like, you should just try blah, 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 read the paper. I'm like, go get New York Timeses on the same day in 2 different states. They're different.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Is that true?
It's 100% factual. It's 100% truth that the front page, headline story will be different based on what's more appealing to that demographic to try to get you to grab the paper.
I totally
to try to
believe that.
get you to buy the freaking paper.
I definitely believe that.
And at the end of the day, what does that translate to?
Everything's
Sales.
about marketing.
It's all about money.
Yep.
It is no longer about the news. And that's what I think the true answer to the question you asked me is it became less about the news and more about the money.
Yep. Yep. Very true.
I don't know when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it happened. For all I know, they were always all about the money and it was easier to hide.
I know, right?
That could be
We
true.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there sure became a moment, and it feels like it was more recent than not, where news became clear it's about the money, not trusted.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't get 2 different stories from Fox and CNN. You should get an identical story with 2 different opinions.
Yeah.
But the fact that you get 2 completely different stories, how do you know which one's lying and which one's not? Well, unfortunately, we go back to clan mentality and we go, well, we're a Democrat or we're not a Democrat, so we believe our tribe.
Right.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
We're just going to blindly trust the tribe?
Yeah, right.
I don't know about that.
Right.
I'd rather be not in a tribe.
No.
Personally.
History says we should not blindly trust the tribe. Right?
No,
because
but nobody likes to
then
look.
hang.
Nobody likes to look at history.
That's right. I know.
Yeah, nobody likes to look at history.
And that's the whole reason we study history is so we don't repeat certain aspects of it.
Yeah, but it just gets repeated regardless.
I know.
Yeah, I mean we've had plagues. We've
Yep.
studied plagues.
Yep.
We acted like children.
Yeah.
As a whole, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then also, once again, on both sides of the news thing, just if you want to get into COVID misinformation, stuff that was fact 6 months in that is now a lie 3 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Guess Fauci's not a genius.
Yeah.
Guess there is a Wuhan lab called the COVID-19 lab. That's interesting. But if you 2 years ago, this episode would have been pulled because we just said that.
For sure.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
What do you mean
pulling
stuff?
Yeah, I know.
People, again, I follow
Censorship.
comedians.
Yeah,
Now every comedian worth their salt has a podcast.
Yep.
And you can't only interview comedians. So you get some, I love his stand-up. So when I say idiot, I just mean this with love. But you get some idiot like Theo Vaughn.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
He has some political person on and they get into a COVID chat and then it gets pulled from YouTube.
Oh, really?
What? Oh, really?
Gosh.
What do you mean, oh, really? That happened a lot. That happened a lot. Too much. Where it was okay, you can't say that. Who's the they telling you can't say that?
Right.
And why? And then very, very more upsetting a year later when the thing you said they couldn't say is now truth.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Don't get me started with UFOs.
I want them to be real so bad.
No, they are. How could we be so ignorant to think that they're not? But now the government is slowly letting us realize that they are real and have been real this whole time. Why? Because they've discovered technology that they want to use in wars, and they need people to work on these things.
That's your opinion. That's interesting.
In order to get these people who are smart enough to work on this technology, they have to let these people know that it's real.
So like Bob Lazar, you stand with him.
I've heard his name before.
Oh my God! What the heck? You bring up UFOs and you don't know Bob Lazar?
Yeah, I think I do.
He was the one. He was the one at S4, which is like the secret one at Area 50.
Yes.
It's like Area 51's already a secret. They have like another secret one in the mountain.
He's very believable.
I mean, I don't know if he's believable, but I know that he described some stuff that didn't exist, and then like 10 years later it existed, and it's like, well, that's convenient,
right?
And yeah, but I mean. Nobody wants the pyramids to have been built by aliens more than this guy as a dude who's about to go to Egypt and walk on the pyramids.
Yeah.
Like I want them to show up then.
I know.
Right there.
Yeah.
But
3 a.m. on the lines of Giza.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'll be waiting with a
That's
camera.
what you have to
oh
do.
my God. Yeah.
Yep.
Or I'll bring no camera if you need me to. Just let me know. But you know, I want it to be real, but the more I like actually kind of look into it, I just feel like there's just no way that, at least like, that's just too simple of an explanation of why these mega structures are still here, that they're all aliens. Like I think I think there are aliens in that, like, there is life on another planet in another galaxy. I think if there isn't, or I think if you think there isn't, you're just scared.
Right.
Because it's like just math statistic wise.
Right.
Yes, there's something, even if it's what we look at as ants, like some single-celled something is somewhere. Yeah. Like, I mean, you know, there's ice on Mars.
Right.
Like that should be enough to be like, okay, we're good. It's there. But like when it comes to aliens having, like, you know, there's tons of fun. Oh my God, you could go on and on down the rabbit hole of, like, you know, there's tons of ones where like Earth was seeded by somebody, or so, you know, something like that. I like to think more about the Younger Dryas impact theory. Mm-hmm. I think that's much more realistic because, like, everybody agrees there's asteroids, comets, whatever you want to call. There's even crater evidence on our planet already.
Yep. We
pretty much we're close to agreement on a timeline, but we all agree that's how the dinosaurs got taken out. Like, there's some really, you know, so then all of a sudden, for me, with a little bit of Graham Hancock's influence, who does that show where that's his, like, main belief is the Younger Dryas impact theory. I think it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, before the internet, it was hard to get knowledge. Yes. So if only a couple thousand people had the knowledge and they all get wiped out by creatures, plague, and asteroids, guess what? There goes the knowledge. We didn't have books. There was no hard drive to write it down in. So now we got to start over. But yet the pyramid stands. Yeah. So I think that's more, it's less fun, but I think it's more realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But I do believe Bob Lazar and Area 51.
Yep.
I think S4 is real.
Yep.
I definitely think S4 is real. Yeah. It would be, man. I think that the government's releasing that info for a very different reason, though.
What's your thought on that?
I think they've got nothing, and I think they're just it's a distraction.
Everything's a distraction.
I think it's 100% just how do we distract them so that we can put some wording into a bill where the wording is not even related to the bill, and we snuck some extra law in.
Always.
And, oh, by the way, election is coming up. Let's distract them with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the timing on release from stuff to me is suspect.
Yeah, totally.
Because, like, if you know there's aliens, just let it out.
Yeah.
Like, what's the benefit if you're the U.S. government to being like, we know there's aliens and we're not going to tell you?
Fear. They like to keep us in fear, but a certain amount of fear.
you don't think there'd be plenty of people still frickin' fear?
There would
There'd
definitely
be a lot of fear, I
think,
feel like, still.
I think it would be chaos, actually. And I think that's why they're trying to control the chaos. Yeah. They like to, it's
I
bits
guess
and
I
pieces.
just don't think it would. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
No, because you've accepted it already. You know what I mean? I've accepted it, that we can't be the only living thing in this galaxy. But other people have not. And so I think it would hearing it from the almighty government would just solidify that for them. And then it would be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like,
I don't think,
you don't have to do
I
anything.
think there's a group of people that wouldn't change their mind.
Yeah, I believe that too.
I think there's enough like a specifically crazy religious people who would just like hear the truth from the government about aliens and be like, that's a lie. No, God told me there's no aliens.
No, I totally believe that to be true as well.
No.
So I don't think the fear factor is as big as they think it is. Many of us have accepted the fact that we, would be naive to think we're the only ones.
I think we should just speculate completely wildly. I think let's see. Let me say something that'll offend the most people. The Catholic Church is probably holding the US government hostage because they know they'll lose their power.
Wild statement?
No, I don't actually.
It's really cute.
Yeah. But that actually makes a lot of sense. They'd be like, well, most of the planet is Christian, right?
I believe so.
I think.
Well, planet, I don't know.
Actually, no, there might be more Muslims.
There might be.
I actually have no clue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You hear about.
I mean, if we're talking about the nation, yes, it might be.
What do you mean the nation in America?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's more.
Christians.
There's more Christians in America than any other of the religions. Yeah.
Especially here in the Bible Belt.
Yes. I mean, even up by where I'm from in New York, though, it's definitely like church. Yeah, it's just less. It's just like there's just like more other functions being put on by other people.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like everything that's being put on by anybody is in the church parking lot.
Yeah. That's true.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
trick or treating. You're doing it from the car trunks.
Right.
Yeah. In the church parking lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to venture far from the church at all.
Yeah, the church likes to definitely stay involved. Yeah. The what's different for me down here is the mega ones.
Yeah.
They're so big. Mm-hmm. To me, it's just like churches help people. Where's the money for that building could have helped somebody?
Yeah.
So you just literally reverse.
Yeah.
Like incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah, incorrect. Have you seen that Religulous documentary?
No.
Bill Maher?
Oh, no. I like Bill Maher.
Bill Maher I'm a fan for sure.
Yeah.
He's unapologetic.
Yeah.
Political comedy, whatever. But it's old now because it was old when I watched it in college. But it's called Religulous, and it's like his documentary where he'll like walk around. He'll go talk to religious people, and it just like you could just tell that he does not hold anything back.
Yeah,
and he gets people very upset because you get religion is one of those things where it's like you believe and somebody questions your belief and you get mad at that person real quick.
Yeah,
and for me it was just kind of eye-opening how he. Of course, I'm going to misquote him, so let the fan mail come in. But he was, going over like 15 to 20 different religions, all older than Christianity, and they were all the same.
Yeah.
He was like, all of them are like somebody born from a virgin on this day, can do this, can do that. And I was like, whoa, I did not know that at all. Mm-hmm. Like they just borrowed all of that from
Everybody
some ancient
knows
religion.
There was a massive flood.
Right. Which is attributed to the Younger Dryas impact theory.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Just saying. That's a quick explanation for the flood.
Yep.
Comet hits ocean. Ocean rises and floods. Yeah. Yep. But that's a great example, though, of like, how can we all be right if we all are saying there was a flood? Which one was correct?
All paths lead to God. That's what I think.
But get an argument over which God.
Oh, my gosh. I know. Well, so in my belief, God is like the universe. So it's like everything that is alive and, you can touch and, all of that, that's the universe, And so any path that you need to get there is the right path for you, as long as you're not hurting other people along the way,
Wow, that's more accepting than me. I just look at religious people and I'm like, we're not gonna be good friends.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But that might be incorrect on my part.
I mean, it's, whatever.
Because like I look at religious, no, but that's separate from what I believe.
Right,
Like I don't believe in God. Bring the hate. It's
Right,
okay.
right,
I'm
right.
allowed not to believe in God.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't like, I have built my own opinion of like, oh, you believe in God, you're an idiot.
Right.
Like, okay, we're not, like, I look at you as dumber than me.
Yeah.
Because you believe in a dude in the sky who's going to make it rain rather than the environment.
That's like a misconception, because people's idea of quote unquote God is that man in the sky kind of thing, and it's not necessarily that, but they like to put labels on things. And so that's what it is. But that's, in reality, it's not, or maybe it's not even reality. My belief is that it's not some guy in the sky saying, yes, you can come in. No, you can't come in. That, I don't know.
Yeah. And then depending on which book you follow, you could pay your way in.
Yeah.
Or you just have to be good all the time to get in.
Right.
Or you could go tell this one dude behind a door all your problems and he'll be like, oh, you're fine. You could just go in. Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't there one that like, once, you lived a good life, here's 7 virgins or something?
I think it's 72 virgins. Yeah.
Yeah. And what are you going to do with that? You're a soul at that point.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like
72?
Right.
Who came up with this number?
Even 1. Like, what are you going to do with it? You are not a body anymore.
Clearly, they don't believe that.
Right.
Yeah, because there are people who, scream Allah Akbar while blowing up U.S. soldiers because they think they're going to get 72 virgins in heaven. I mean, that doesn't seem like a great trade.
No, not at all.
Yeah. But,
the thinking is interesting.
The thinking is interesting, and it's very interesting to think, like, how strong your belief must be.
Yeah, to run in there like a kamikaze. Yeah. For
real.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe in anything that strongly.
Yeah. No.
Like, short of, like I would turn into John Wick if you hurt my dog.
Right.
But like short of that, I don't believe in anything strong enough to do that kind of stuff.
No.
Like there's just no, yeah. So it's like.
For a political party who just uses you as a pawn? No thanks.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Well, snap. We went all over the spectrum here. I love it.
We sure did.
Yeah, I love it so much. Let's see. You gave out your info already. I gave out my info already. We've jumped everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good spot to wrap it up, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
You are very welcome. Thanks so much for being flexible and rescheduling.
Of course.
And
glad you're feeling better.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
And let's start a Durham Expo.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
City Council, pay attention. We're coming for you. Yeah.
I'm on it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.